Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a beautiful day here in Middle Tennessee. I mean, right now in bucolic Watertown, we have a very pleasant 76 degrees. Had to turn on the AC, and it's such a beautiful day that my entire studio is infested by ladybugs. I got more ladybugs crawling around on the walls of my studio. I don't know where they come from.
Now, are you sure they're ladybugs and not lady beetles? Because
No,
that's a
well,
totally different animal.
I don't know. It looked like ladybugs to me, and I always thought that ladybugs were good luck. But 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 of them on the wall, directly in front of me. I don't know where they're coming from.
Well, if they're good luck, you're going to have some.
Yeah, I'm going to have some. I need all the good luck I can get through the next couple of days because, as you know, Super Tuesday's tomorrow, and we're going to do a deep dive on that at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, having just, sort of done some of that with Matt Murphy and the run-up to this program. But I do want to take some time to dig through what your high court, the Supreme Court of the land, did today. A huge victory for Donald Trump. It was widely expected that he would win this particular court battle. And there is another court battle that the high court's going to be looking at with regard to whether or not presidential immunity covers him for the documents case down in Mar-a-Lago. But that's not even heard by the high court until late April. So that one's on hold for a little while. But the high court today, they did something unusual. Last night, they sent out a bulletin and an email to all of the people who regularly cover the high court, alerting them to the fact that there would be one opinion released today. And it was widely thought at that point this will be the decision with regard to the 14th Amendment claim that has taken Donald Trump, or could potentially take Donald Trump, off the ballot in Colorado. The high court unanimously, very rare in these very divided times, to have a 9-0 ruling by the high court, but it was exactly that. And in favor of President Trump, saying that, the state of Colorado, the Supreme Court of Colorado, were acting like a bunch of boneheads when they came up with some kind of legal argument that the insurrection clause in the 14th Amendment was enough to keep Donald Trump off of the ballot in the particular state, and others that are considering this legal challenge to Donald Trump. I think there's a total of 14 states where somebody has brought a lawsuit saying that Donald Trump should not be on the ballot because of the 14th Amendment. Now, many of the states looked at this and looked at it and said, nice try. No, that doesn't work. That's not what the Constitution says. But having the Supreme Court take up the matter and definitively decide this as we head into the balloting on Super Tuesday, I think was a way from the high court to say, we need to get this cleaned up before people go to the ballots. We need to know whether the votes in Colorado that might be cast for Trump are valid or not. And we just need to get this out of the way. So they did it today. And let me just read some of the highlights from this in case you have not followed this particular case. The Supreme Court sided unanimously with former President Donald Trump on a challenge to the state by the state of Colorado's attempt to kick him off the 2024 ballot. All 9 justices ruled in favor of Trump in the case, which will impact the status of efforts in several other states to remove the likely GOP nominee from their respective ballots. The court considered for the first time, according to Fox News, the meaning and reach of Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, which bars former office holders who engaged in insurrection from holding public office again. Challenges have been filed to remove Trump from the 2024 ballot in over 30 states. And the Supreme Court ruled, we conclude that states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state offices, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the president. And what they're saying here is the responsibility would be on Congress to impeach him, and therefore on the case of insurrection, which they did not do. Colorado's Secretary of State Jenna Griswold issued a statement Monday saying the United States Supreme Court has ruled that states do not have the authority to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for federal candidates. In accordance with this decision, Donald Trump is an eligible candidate on Colorado's 2024 presidential primary. Trump reacted in a post on Truth Social saying it was a big win for America. He later came out and spoke to cameras about this.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well.
He was very pleased with that. I actually have. I read all 20-some-odd pages of the Supreme Court decision, which, by the way, has no author. They don't name who wrote it, but it may have come from the chief. Who knows? But here is the key passage on page 6. States have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the president. So the whole paragraph. This case raises the question about whether states, in addition to Congress, may enforce Section 3. We conclude that states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state offices, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. And just now a little bit later, they conclude such as this. I think this is pretty powerful and conclusive statement by the High Court. Here we go. For the reasons given, responsibility for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress and not the states. The judgment of Colorado Supreme Court, therefore, cannot stand. All 9 members of the court agree with that result. Our colleagues writing separately further agree with many of the reasons for this opinion for reaching it. So far as we can tell, they object only to our taking into account the distinctive way Section 3 works and the fact that Section 5 vests in Congress to the power to enforce it. These are not the only reasons the states lack power to enforce the particular constitutional provision with respect to federal offices, but they are important ones, and it is the combination of all the reasons set forth in this opinion, not as some of our colleagues would have, just one particular rationale that resolves this case. In our view, each of these reasons is necessary to provide a complete explanation for the judgment the court unanimously reaches. The judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court is reversed, and the mandate shall issue forthwith. I always like it when they do something forthwith. Now, Justice Barrett, as a conservative, did join with something known as a concurring opinion. And what that is it's an opportunity for the judges or the justices to say, look, we quibble somewhat. We agree with the overall direction of this, but we do quibble somewhat. And she goes on to quibble on a minor point of law. Then she says, the court has settled a politically charged issue in the volatile season of a presidential election. Particularly in this circumstance, writings on the court should turn the national temperature down, not up. For present purposes, our differences are far less important than our unanimity. All 9 justices agreeing on the outcome of this case. That is the message Americans should take home. Then you have, again, a concurring opinion by the 3 liberals on the court, and it's a minor quibble. It really is. It's just like, we can't completely agree with the majority decision, but we generally agree that it was wrongly decided. We have some quibbles, and the quibbles are therefore noted in the concurring opinion. Overall, what this means is Donald Trump's name will be on the ballot in Colorado and all the other states where this challenge had been brought. The Supreme Court decisively decided that you cannot, as a state, question or use the insurrection clause to keep somebody off the ballot. It was a nonsensical, it was well understood by anybody who has any kind of understanding of the Constitution at all that this was not going to stand. Now, the second case that the High Court will consider later in the year, in April, is about the immunity and whether or not Donald Trump has immunity, a presidential immunity, to cover him for the documents that were found out at Mar-a-Lago. That case is proceeding, and the immunity question will not be considered until late April. And then, depending on how that comes out, the expectation is that Trump will not win that particular argument. Who knows? But, it doesn't sound like he's going to win that particular argument. Most of the real smart legal minds seem to think it's a weak argument. I don't know. I'm not that up on, not a constitutional lawyer, but I mean, I do listen to people that I admire and respect, and one of them is Jonathan Turley. He says that case probably is not going to go well. Andrew McCarthy says the case is probably not going to go well. Dershowitz case, the case is not going to go in his favor. So whatever happens there, that doesn't get decided. So let's assume that the pundits are right, the high court watchers are correct, and he does not win that one. Well, then the trial will begin, but you could have 3 or more months of pre-trial motions that have to be resolved before the trial can start. We don't know when the ruling is going to come down from the high court. They rushed this one. This was, as Supreme Court decisions go, done at warp speed. So, they rushed this one through in order to get it done before Super Tuesday and before Coloradoans vote. But I don't know that they'll be in such a rush to do the other, as it is a more complicated point of law. So we'll see exactly what happens, but I would expect that that would come out. I mean, if they did in April and they came out in June, that would be warp speed on that decision. Then the trial could go forward, but you got maybe 2-3 months of pretrial motions, and then you're into the real throes of the election, days before the election, and there is a rule, an unspoken rule that has always been followed at the Department of Justice, as that when you get super close to an election, and these things have political ramifications, you do not try the case running up to the middle of the election season. You wait until after. So, it essentially, by the high court taking that case and saying, we will consider the question of immunity, it basically has pushed back the prosecutor's timeline for bringing the case, and may actually keep him from bringing the case before the election is over. He says he can do it, but it would be in violation of long-standing Department of Justice policy to go forward there. So all of this, very good news today for Donald Trump. He's got to be pleased. It was a complete repudiation of what was clearly a political decision by the highest court in the state of Colorado. I mean, nobody really thought this one was ever going to stand, but it had to be adjudicated. It had to be decided, and the Supreme Court, I think, has acted responsibly by doing so. As I mentioned, in about an hour from now, we'll get deeply into the road to the White House. There were events over the weekend that are interesting and important, but we're all going to also be looking forward to the big day, Super Tuesday, when 15 states decide who's going to be their representative, who's going to be their nominee, including the state of Tennessee. And it's the time where you might have a situation where both Donald Trump and Joe Biden could clinch their respective nominations. It's close, but I mean, I think Biden will, maybe Trump will. It will depend on how many states, go strongly for Trump, and how many delegates he can rack up. You've got to actually get about. I got the exact numbers here. Trump needs 1,215 to clinch. There are 1,600 votes available. Biden needs 2,330 to clinch. There are 2,827 delegates available tomorrow. So we'll get into that in a much deeper way. Right now, it is 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about the folks over at DT McCall, a good company, 5 convenient locations near you here in Middle Tennessee. And really what they do is they sell things that you might need at your house. They have sent me their latest flyer, and it goes on and on. I mean, if you're looking for an appliance, they've got it. Here's a bedroom suite. They've got that. Here are refrigerators, and they got a scratch and dent appliance thing going on right now where you can really get some big savings. I mean, a lot of people want a refrigerator for their garage. I got a man cave garage, but a scratch and dent, that'd be perfect in a garage. If it's got some little ding, it doesn't matter. Does it keep the beer cold? That's what counts, right? Washers and dryers. They've got mowers. Oh, man. And I got to tell you, Cub Cadet mowers, I love their Cub Cadet mowers. I have one, and I think it's just fantastic. So they got all kinds of specials up on that and some coupons that you can clip. Listen, there are a lot of things that you can do when you go to DT McCall's. There's a lot of things you can get for your home, and you're going to get a good, honest price that will not be jacked up when they add on, because there won't be any add-on for delivery, setup, or haul away, okay? Learn more about their 5 convenient locations by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Medicare drug price negotiations, an active investigation in Tennessee after a man shot and killed while entering an apartment, and former President Trump with a big win today, but maybe not as exactly as he's described. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour. There's Mac Morey with all the stories and Chris Webber in the control room. And it is a gorgeous day.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
you can't ask for a nicer day than this. This is 76 degrees and abundant sunshine. And, you know, the Bulldogs are lollygagging by the pool today.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
They're loving life. And I didn't want to come to work. I wanted to stay out with the Bulldogs. It was that nice. But I'm here, and my head's in it. Can I tell you, there are things that happen. This is a story that is just, it's on my mind heavily. And it's a personal experience, but I learned something new about something that happened to me some 50 years ago. You know, I have mentioned on this show from time to time that, you know, I was the pedestrian in a truck pedestrian accident when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And you know, I took a pretty good lick, and I broke my right leg in 2 places and was in a cast most of my senior year, or at least half of the year in my senior year of high school. And I knew the girl who was driving the truck. It was after a football game, and and all of that. And so it was heavy traffic. And, I thought I looked and I didn't, but I went out across the street to catch up with my parents where they were at a gas station filling up the car. And I got hit. And I have some memories of that. I don't think I ever lost consciousness. I know being, on the ground and looking at my foot, raising up and looking at my foot, and my foot was pointed 180 degrees the wrong direction. So I knew I had a broken leg. And it took a minute. My mom, my dad, and my sister all saw it. And my sister says she can still close her eyes and relive it. It was so seared in her brain, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so we're getting ready to have our 50th high school reunion, right? And so we're talking to everybody. Everybody's on Facebook chatting about this and chatting about that. And I posted something about a memory I had. And all of a sudden, I get this text or this direct message from someone who I won't mention her name, but someone who said, Brian, I was in the truck that ran over you as a passenger. And until that moment, I never knew there was somebody else in the truck besides the driver.
Really?
I never knew. Yeah. And so she describes in sort of horrific detail how I rolled up the hood and hit the windshield and went over the top of the vehicle. And I mean, apparently it was brutal. And my sister says, yep, that's exactly what happened. But she had details that I had never heard in some 50 years. I thought I had that whole story, pieced it together from different people about what happened and what they saw. But I found out there's a whole lot of stuff I didn't remember. And so it's been sort of like, I've been thinking a lot about that, trying to recreate those moments and trying to remember what I do remember. And I do remember getting to hospital and there were some complications that were pretty bad, some breathing complications. And there for a while, I said to my mom one day about, the treatments that they were giving me. I sort of remember being in and out of it when all that was going on. And I said, yeah, that was a long day. She said, hon, that was 3 days. And I had compressed all of that into one day. I'd lost all sense of daylight, dark, whatever. I just was so out of it.
Wow.
So I guess I was sort of, in a blurred moment, but it was like this very shocking experience after 50 years to find out something new and a whole nother person who was a witness to the whole thing. And I found out what they were doing, why they were in Daddy's truck. And I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but they weren't at the football game. Let's put it that way. And
gotcha.
They got caught up in the traffic and maybe they were supposed to be at the football game, but they weren't. I don't know. But apparently she said, you made a hell of a dent in that truck.
You've told
that truck made a hell of a dent in me too. I'll tell you that for sure.
In all the times you've told that story over the years, I never pictured you going up over I pictured you, the truck hits you and you just fall back on I didn't picture it being that sort of impact.
I remember seeing it at the last second and I thought, I got to jump high. Maybe I can clear the hood. And it was the last thing I remember. But I don't remember hitting the windshield at all.
Wow.
Apparently hood, windshield, and over the back of the truck.
Man.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing. It's like the kind of thing you see in the movies,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's apparently because it was real. And I just learned today, talking to my sister about it, that when they sent me to the hospital, my dad was going to go, but my sister turned to him and said, you need to let mom go in the ambulance because she can't drive to the hospital. She's too, she's too whacked out. So my mom apparently got in the ambulance. I had no memory of my mom being in the ambulance at all.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's like all of this stuff coming back after 50 years. But the good news is, and what I want to always say when I tell this story is, it was my fault. It wasn't anybody's fault but mine. I stepped out in traffic and I thought I looked left and right, but I never saw this car coming until the last second. And, so I don't want them to think I'm blaming anybody because I made the mistake. And when I hear in Nashville them talking about we need to, be sure we protect pedestrians. Pedestrians need to make sure they don't step out in traffic because I think when you look at all of these accidents, most of the time you find the pedestrian was at fault, really. You're supposed to try to avoid hitting pedestrians, but if they step off the curb or they cross in the middle of the street, why is that on you?
That's true.
So, I want to make sure everybody knows I don't blame anybody but myself for that. But it was interesting after 50 years to get new details that I had never heard before about a pretty seminal day in my life. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, it's 31 past the hour now, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
3:31. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 75 degrees in Nashville. That sun flying high. We'll let you know what's upcoming in the weather forecast, plus a traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. President Joe Biden announced another step forward in the Medicare drug price discussion with several drug makers. The White House had touted this as the first time ever in which Medicare is negotiating lower prices for the American people. Im Nguyen has more.
President Biden released the latest update on negotiations for Medicare drug prices and how chats are progressing, saying all 10 drugs selected have submitted counteroffers. The president in a statement said this takes the country one step closer to lowering health care costs for Americans. The administration started the negotiation process last month, saying this could continue through the 1st of August. If a new maximum price is agreed to, the new prices could take effect starting 2026.
Got an active investigation in Tennessee. 32-year-old Samuel L. Edwards Jr. was killed after an apartment shooting on Buena Vista Pike in the middle of the night last night. Reports indicate that Edwards was visiting someone when he was followed and shot. No suspect yet in custody, no motive found for the shooting. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers with the possibility of a $5,000 reward. Former President Trump taking a victory lap this afternoon following the SCOTUS decision to help him back on Colorado's primary ballot, telling reporters inside his Mar-a-Lago estate, quote, "You cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way," a claim Devin Dwyer says is not discussed in the decision.
The former president is not quite precise in his recharacterization of what the Supreme Court said today. In fact, the justices in their decision, unanimous decision, didn't mention anything about political opponents. No mention of politics and no specific mention of Donald Trump's conduct by the Supreme Court today. So yes, this was a win for Donald Trump, but this was not quite how the president just presented it.
And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want you to imagine what you could do and how you would feel if you or a loved one that you know could eliminate their pain. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley can help you find a pain-free life because getting better and feeling healthy is important. They're freezing the cost at 2023 levels. That's right. They brought back their half-off spinal decompression treatment, half off the KT knee machine, and patients can get a full consultation for just $23. Now, here's what happens when you come to see Dr. Mitchell and or Dr. Ashley for the non-surgical spinal decompression. They will look at your situation, give you an advanced report of findings. They're willing to sit down and look at MRIs or X-rays that you may have. They often find things that other people missed. And then you begin your treatment. Spinal decompression elongates the spinal discs, bringing blood and nutrition, healing and repairing bulging and herniated discs that can cause spinal stenosis. It gets rid of tingling in the arms and her legs, in some cases, weakness, stiffness, and pain. And holding the price at just $23, you get an exam, consultation, and x-rays included. Again, just come on in and start the process for $23 for new patients in the month of March. So call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your consultation. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville, so call them today and learn more at painisbad.com. It is 39 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, on a glorious March 4th, Monday. It's already lamb-like, and we're just barely into the month. I don't know. I mean, where's the lion? It's supposed to be lioness. Supposed to be liony.
That would be okay if the lion just skipped town.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Around.
I'll tell you, I'll go for it. But I think we do have, rain coming. So I think we're moving closer and closer into the throes of spring.
I
know. I got them little purple flowers in my yard. Them little purple things.
The weeds.
Yeah, they look like weeds, but they're pretty. I mean, they're sort of pretty.
They are, yeah.
But they're not supposed to be there. But they are there, and I notice they're everywhere in my yard. So much for that weed service.
Might want to get a refund on that.
Not that I'm bitter. All right, so we were talking about all the things that are going on that could have an impact on Donald Trump as we go forward. We talk all about, how the high court is going to have oral arguments to hear the matter of whether or not presidential immunity exists for Donald Trump with regard to the classified documents case out of Mar-a-Lago. Okay. Now, what's interesting about that case is absolutely Joe Biden did it just exactly the same thing that Donald Trump did. And the judge hearing the Biden case, the prosecutor hearing the Biden case, decided that he wouldn't bring charges. Didn't have a case. We can't try him while he's in the office because presidents are immune from lawsuits while they're in office. And by the time we got him out, it could be, maybe either 82 or 86. 82. And he would present himself as a thoughtful and well-meaning old man with a bad memory. He said, and so we didn't think we could get a conviction in the District of Columbia. So, I think Donald Trump was correct to say, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Dismiss the case against me. But now we're going to have the high court in April consider that matter. But there's another case out there, and I've been looking at this, and Andrew McCarthy is correct about this. From the Daily Caller, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy said Monday that many people have missed the case that could blow up special counsel Jack Smith's prosecution of former President Donald Trump. Now, as you know, Smith has a 4-count indictment against Trump related to the efforts to change the results of the 2020 election. And then there's an obstruction case out there, an obstruction case that is being heard that does not involve Trump. But listen to what Andrew McCarthy says about that obstruction case. The case to keep your eye on is the obstruction case. We miss it because Trump is not a party to that case. But they are looking at the same statute that is key to Smith's prosecution of Trump in Washington. And if they, as I expect, if they say the Justice Department has not been correctly applying the statute, that's going to have a catastrophic impact for Smith on his indictment. In other words, this whole matter of immunity may not be the thing to really worry about. It's about whether or not the Justice Department has correctly been applying the obstruction statutes that are on the books. McCarthy believes that indeed they may lose this case. The Justice Department may lose this case. The Justice Department has charged hundreds of people who took part in the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol building with violating 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, obstructing or impeding an official proceeding, which carries a potential sentence of up to 20 years. And so if that gets thrown out, then you could have a case that falls apart for a lot of the January 6 people, but also it would just destroy and completely annihilate Jack Smith's case against Trump in this particular matter. And Smith, by the way, has a history of being out there on the fringes of legal thought. The Supreme Court threw out a conviction Smith secured against then Republican Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia in a unanimous decision in 2016. So there is a case that we should be watching that may be more important than this immunity claim. And look, I'm telling you, when you really look at the totality of the cases that have been brought, you got the Mar-a-Lago thing. You got did he try to obstruct justice? Did he try to change the outcome of the election? You got that case going on. You got all these things, but all of them have potentially very weak elements to them. It's almost as if the people who are bringing these cases were out on the fringes of legal thought in bringing these cases. And the Fannie Willis case, oh my gosh, has that been fun to watch? Judge Scott Mafficky, according to RedState.com, heard closing arguments in the disqualification effort to remove Fulton County DA Fannie Willis and her team from the election interference case that involves former President Donald Trump and multiple other defendants. Prior to closing arguments, the judge made a comment that indicated he thought he might be able to make a decision without making a decision on the entering further exhibits like cell phone data that shows 2,000 calls between the two and 10,000 texts that said they were in a romantic relationship. There is overwhelming evidence that Fulton County DA Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade were in a relationship, and there's no doubt about that. The closing arguments did not appear to go well for the prosecution, with Fulton County Deputy District Attorney Adam Abate arguing the matter that there had to be an actual conflict for disqualification. But most people agree that you don't have to have a solidly proven case, an absolutely button-proof case. All you have to have is the appearance of impropriety, and she could be disqualified. Look, Fannie could lose her law license. Nathan Wade could lose his law license, especially if it's determined that they have lied to the court. And there's some indication that they have. The text messages between the divorce attorney for Nathan Wade and one of the other defense attorneys seemed to confirm beyond any shadow of a doubt that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade were in a relationship. And the text messages, if you want to get into them, you start getting the actual texts, the actual verbiage, and not just the fact that there was a text message, but what they were saying, that would prove it beyond any doubt at all, I'm pretty sure. But the judge seems to think he has heard enough to rule on the case, and I don't think that's a good sign for Fani and Nathan. The Atlanta Constitution-Journal was one that to note that the long pauses and the halting answers as he tried to answer questions from Judge Scott McAfee suggested that Willis at times seemed eager to help up step at the podium and argue the matter herself. She actually walked into the courtroom during final arguments. So did Nathan Wade. And, she put on a bright, shiny face like she's not worried about this at all. But you got to know that as much as has come out in that trial that suggested that they lied on the stand in their testimony, I got to tell you, that could be a real, it could be a really bad day for Fani and Nathan Wade, and a good day for Trump, because if they are disqualified, then the next question is, should the case be dismissed? And I think that's exactly what the attorneys for Trump and others are asking for, that the whole thing be so. So that's falling apart. The Supreme Court, put the kibosh on the stupid arguments being made by the Supreme Court of Colorado. We got another case out there that is pending that could blow up the Jack Smith case. The documents case, I just don't think they got a very strong case there at all. And so at the end of the day, a lot of the things they say, well, he's got 91 indictments against him. Yeah, you know what? One by one, he's picking them off. And everybody understands, I think, that ruling by Judge Engoron in New York that said that Donald Trump had to come up with, $455 million. And everybody thinks that was wrongly decided and that Trump will win on appeal. So, I mean, and then you see Trump, and he's just out there like he hadn't got a care in the world. If I had 91 indictments against me, I would be in the world. I would be moping around. I'd be, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of all this? Oh my goodness. I would be wailing and gnashing of teeth and all that kind of stuff. But he just looks like, hey, yes, no problem. Yeah, we're going to get through it. And he's picking them off one by one, slowly but surely. There are a lot of things that are falling his way with regard to all of that. It's just a shame that, Democrats, and this is all political. Everybody knows it's political. This was an attempt to throw everything they could throw at Donald Trump to see if they could find something that sticks. And then when it sticks, you still have to go through the appeals process. So, none of these things are going to be decided, I think, conclusively during this election year. The whole idea is to muddy up the water. There's just one problem. The people who support Donald Trump look at all of these legal issues and they say, you know what? I don't care. I think these are BS. I think this is just an attempt to get Trump. It's the judicial system being used as a weapon. And every time he gets indicted, his numbers go up because people get more and more angry about the way he's being treated. As Trump put it one day, they're going to indict me right into the White House. And he's not too far off, it would seem. So again, when you hear all of these cases and they talk about 91 indictments and this and that and the other, when you start looking deep into each one of these cases, what you find are major flaws in these cases. And I think, will they all be resolved in a positive way before the election? Nope, I don't think they will be. But I do believe that some of these cases have major weaknesses in them. And I think that when you get the Trump people as the good lawyers in there defending Trump, you may find that a lot of these cases, turn out to be not all that they appeared to be in the initial going. It's now 50 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. The chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path. They just aren't going to pay off the $34 trillion debt anytime soon. Instead, as you know, they'll just print money to pay the interest on the debt and thus debase the U.S. dollar. Listen, I got to tell you, gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times. And my friends at Nashville Gold and Coin are standing by to answer all your questions about the precious metals market. Maybe you have thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you feel like you don't have the knowledge you need to make a smart decision. That's the way I felt, but I got the professional guidance that I needed at Nashville Gold and Coin. The way this works is you make an appointment, you sit down one-on-one with the folks at Nashville Gold and Coin. They will answer all of your questions and help you make the precious metals investment that is right for you. It's friendly, you'll learn a lot, and you'll never be subjected to a high-pressure sales pitch. So listen, set up that one-on-one appointment. Just go to Nashville Gold and Coin. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
The search for Sebastian Rogers out of Sumner County starting to die down as hope dwindles to find that autistic teenager after 9 days without anyone seeing him. Massachusetts Air National Guardsman who leaked classified documents in court today. A woman found dead in a creek in Tennessee. And a booming box office for one new film. Those stories and more, 4 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you very much, Mac Maury. We'll look forward to the newscast and again at 5:25 with his smash, breakaway, runaway hit, Mac Maury's Wide, Wild World of Sports. You don't want to miss that. It's become a fan favorite. Really is. It's a fan favorite. They tell me so. They think that Mac Maury, he knows his sports.
It's my favorite too. I really enjoy it.
It is, and it's used come alive. It's very clear. Let's look at the markets very quickly. Dow Jones Industrial Averages are down 97 points. S&P ended the day down 6. NASDAQ down 67. That's right. All the major indices are vibrant shades of red today. What's going on with all that? What's driving the market? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management for more on that. Good afternoon, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, negative day in the market, and this is after the S&P has actually had winning weeks in 16 of the last 18 weeks. So the market is a little bit nervous this week, and so it's taken a step back. The S&P and the NASDAQ both pulled back from all-time highs. The key this week is Jerome Powell is going to be testifying before Congress on Wednesday and Thursday. It's a semi-annual talk that he does. He's going to be talking about the economy, and the market's going to be watching really closely his take on interest rates. And it's going to make Friday's jobs report all the more important because one of the key things he's going to be looking for and trying to communicate is the cooling in the jobs market. So as the week goes on, there's more and more important reports like the Fed, and the jobs report is going to be key to watch. So the market taking a little bit of step back.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Learn more about all the things that John and the other fine people at Beacon Capital Management can do to make sure you're ready for retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. A beautiful day in Music City, 75 degrees, mostly sunny. Traffic, complete weather forecast, headed your way in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, officials announced today that they're going to be scaling back the search for Sebastian Rogers out of Sumner County. Channel 4's Lauren Lowry spoke to those parents to see if they have any idea why their son would have left.
Hey, Katie tells us that she woke up that morning and within 3 minutes, she knew Sebastian was not in the house and called 911. They say they have no idea what would have motivated him to leave the house. They say they have been fully cooperating with authorities and know they've also spoken with his biological father and those who know him from school.
Today, day 9 of him missing. He was last seen last Sunday, leaving his home wearing all black, carrying a flashlight. No evidence currently to suggest that he is not alive. Agencies as far as Knox County, the Tennessee National Guard, and the Army National Guard have all assisted in the search. Massachusetts Air National Guardsman Jack Texera has pleaded guilty to charges he leaked sensitive government documents on social media. Mike Dubusky.
As part of his plea deal, 22-year-old Jack Texera will serve 16 years in prison. Matt Olson is the Assistant Attorney General for the Department of Justice's National Security Division.
This guilty plea brings accountability, and it brings a measure of closure to a chapter that created profound harms for our nation's security.
Texera was arrested in April after he used his top-secret security clearance to post military intelligence on Discord, a gaming-focused social media platform.
Texera's family says their son, quote, has taken responsibility for his part in this, but also questioned the security and, quote, lackadaisical work environment at the base where he worked. Another tragic mystery here in the Volunteer State. 44-year-old Emily Bradley was found dead in Whites Creek on Saturday. She went missing February 21st, was found dead days later. The medical examiner's office determined Bradley's death was caused by blunt force trauma. Officials are pursuing leads to identify a suspect. They're also searching for her silver Chevy Cruze with Florida license plates. Bradley's family and friends said they believed she may have been a victim of domestic violence. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. In some entertainment news, it was an even better box office weekend for Dune Part 2. Jason Nathanson.
When you see sand here, imagine water.
Forget water, imagine money. Dune Part 2's debut even bigger than expected in North America. The Monday numbers show an $82.5 million opening weekend, with another $100 million from around the world. That's about $4 million more than the weekend estimates. And the best debut of the year so far. And the film is expected to dominate March without a lot of direct competition.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's hour number 2 of the drive here on this really remarkably beautiful spring day. It's not spring yet, but it feels like it. March 4th, 2024, and 76 degrees out there. Man, we can take that all day long. Well, we got a lot to talk about, including what's going to be happening tomorrow, this little thing we call Super Tuesday. Well, listen, it's time to do our official Road to the White House segment, and tomorrow I'll be doing this segment from the Nashville Palace. As you know, we have our Super Talk Live event there. Free event, broadcasting live as the results come in on Super Tuesday. You can join Dan, Chris, Matt, and me for a night of fun, food, and conversation. You still need to RSVP to get your table. It's not really to get a seat or get a table. It's just to let us know that you're coming because, quite frankly, we need a body count. We need to know how many folks to prepare for. So help us out on that. And then if you do that, you're in the running for a massive hot chicken and barbecue tailgate package that serves 25 people. And if you don't know 25 people, then, just feed me because I'll probably be hungry. I'll be there at 3 o'clock. The official broadcast with everybody, in their places with their bright, shiny faces starts at 6. You can get details at 99.7. WTN.com, brought to you by the Glock Store, Busy Bee Plumbing, and membersnutrition.com. We look forward to seeing you there. Now, what's going on with the big Super Tuesday? Today, as you heard, we talked about it earlier, the Supreme Court handed down a ruling that said that you cannot take Donald Trump off the ballot in Colorado. So that matter is, and by the way, there are 30 other states where similar lawsuits were pending and percolating. The Supreme Court put a stop to that nonsense today. Big victory for Donald Trump. Over the weekend, Donald Trump won the caucuses in Missouri, Michigan, and Idaho. But much of the talk has been about Nikki Haley, who picked one off in the District of Columbia. That's right. She got a lot of votes there, beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't even really play in the District of Columbia. It's not a big deal. I've looked at the numbers. Basically, registered Republicans make up about 5% of the D.C. population. It's about 700,000 people, and there are 23,000 registered Republicans, and only 2,000 Republicans, and I put that in quotations because I don't know if they were all Republicans, but only 2,000 Republicans showed up to vote in this primary in the District of Columbia. Very low turnout, and again, what a surprise it is. The swamp doesn't like Donald Trump. These are largely government workers. Are people who are in the, work on K Street, etc., the lawyers, that type. So, again, not a big deal, but everybody's talking about Nikki Haley. And then, of course, the big question is, well, Nikki, are you still going to honor your pledge to support the nominee? Because it's entirely possible that Donald Trump will clinch tomorrow night. It may take a while for that number to get in, since some of these primaries are in like western states, California, and Alaska, and Utah. So it will take a long time for those results to come in. But at the end of the night, by the time the next morning, we should know whether Trump has clinched the nomination. I think there's a fairly good chance he might. I think it's a stronger chance that Biden will, because he's picking up the Democrats have more delegates for grabs than do the Republicans. But one way or the other, I think this is it. This is where the big marbles are. 15 states. Let's just go through them all. We got let's see. Arizona, Alaska, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, 58 delegates up for grabs in Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Vermont. All of those states will be decided tomorrow. Many of them are winner take all. Up for grab are 30% of the available Democrat delegates and 36% of all the Republican delegates. And right now, as it stands, Trump has 244. Nikki Haley has 43. Again, the question, what will Nikki Haley do? Because she says she's in it. until March 5th, and she's making noises like, no, I don't want to be a member of the No Labels Party. I don't like that idea. I don't think that I want a Democrat to run with a Democrat as a vice president. That's just not what I'm about. I'm a Republican. However, she was asked this question over the weekend, and she hemmed and hawed and never really answered the question, suggesting that maybe she will seek an alternative path to the presidency after March 5th, after the Super Tuesday election results are in. Here is Nikki Haley being asked that question on Meet the Press this weekend.
Are you bound by the RNC pledge?
The RNC pledge, I mean, at the time of the debate, we had to take it to where would you support the nominee? And you had to, in order to get on that debate stage, you said yes. The RNC is now not the same RNC. Now it's
So you're no
Trump's
longer bound
daughter-in-law.
by that pledge?
No, I think I'll make what decision I want to make, but that's not something I'm thinking about. And I think that while y'all think about that, I'm looking at the fact that we had thousands of people in Virginia. We're headed to North Carolina. We're going to continue to go to Vermont and Maine and all these states to go and show people that there is a path forward.
Well, that's weaseling out of giving us the answer. Is she going to support the pledge that she promised to make or not? And by saying no, it seems to me she's leaving open her options. And said, I'm not thinking about that. She's thinking about that. She's thinking about that and what happens after Super Tuesday. No. I'm just focusing on Super Tuesday. I have myopic vision. I don't look at anything beyond March 5th. I'm focused like a laser beam on March 5th, and that's where I'm at. And I'm not thinking about anything after March 5th. That's, that doesn't hold up. Nobody believes that, but nobody really knows what her plan is. Except that she has said she doesn't like the concept of the No Labels Party. By the way, the No Labels Party, they don't even meet to consider whether or not they're going to put forward a candidate until 3 days after March 5th, on the 8th of March. All right, so let's run through some numbers here. A lot of interesting numbers over the weekend. A New York Times poll that was devastating for Joe Biden. Very good for Donald Trump. In the general election, we have a bunch of the surveys that came in over the weekend. Fox has Trump winning the general election by 2, but if you do a 5-way race, they say he'll win by 3 if it were held today. Wall Street Journal, Trump by 2. In a 5-way race, Trump by 5. New York Times says Trump will win by 4. CBS says Trump will win by 4. So, all of these numbers tend to suggest that the numbers are tightening up for Donald Trump. He's starting to pull away. But this New York Times Siena College poll had a lot of interesting stuff in the interior and what you call the internals of the poll. His disapproval rate, 47%. In some places, it's lower than that. 83% say they will vote for Biden. The 83% of Democrats say they will support Biden, but 97% of Trump supporters say they will vote for Trump. 10% of what we would normally consider Biden supporters now say they will shift over and support Trump. Now, what are the issues that are on their minds? 78% say the border is a major problem. Not surprising. Even 66% of Democrats are willing to admit that the border is a major problem. Response to the handling of Israel-Hamas war by the Biden administration is getting very, very poor marks. And this is a problem for the current president, the sitting president. 31% of those surveyed approve of the way the Biden administration is handling the Israel-Hamas war. 62% disagree. I'm shocked by that number, quite frankly. I'm very surprised it is that low. So he's got several problems. First, he's got the economy not working for a lot of people. Second of all, one of the major issues is the border, and most people see through the attempts at the Biden administration to suggest that Republicans caused this. They know better than that. Everybody knows better than that. So that is a problem for the sitting president. And then you get to this issue of the conduct of the Israel-Hamas war and how the White House has handled that matter from the United States standpoint, and you only find 31% of people approve and the rest disapprove. Those things are very serious problems for Joe Biden. Serious, serious problems for Joe Biden. So what happens? Well, I think when you take these numbers and add it to the battleground numbers that we had from last week, which were really, really quite amazing, that showed that in all 7 of the major battleground states, you have a situation where Trump is leading, sometimes by a small amount, sometimes well outside the margin of error. He's leading in all 7. You look at these numbers, these internals that show a high level of disapproval for the job he's doing. They don't like what's happening at the border. They don't like what's going on with the economy. They don't like what's going on with Israel and Hamas. They feel like the Biden administration is handling that wrong. I mean, a lot of that adds up to a lot of negativity for Biden, and 10% of Democrats now say they're going to vote for Trump. So, I mean, as you look at these numbers, the Republicans, you don't want to get cocky. You don't want to, just think it's all done because it's a long way till November. A lot of things can happen, but right now, these numbers are looking fairly positive. They're a snapshot in time. They are just a window into what's happening at this moment. It doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. I don't want you to think that because I believe the numbers are good today, it's over. I'm just saying today, things are looking pretty good for Trump and not looking so good for Biden. How long? The question remains, will Democrats stick by Biden? At what point do they say, you know what? Maybe we need to do something else, and somebody has to go have that very serious talk with Joe Biden and Jill and tell them that it's just not going to happen for them, and they need to, for the good of the Democrat Party, do something else. Will they take that heed? Will they follow, or will he stay to the bitter end to see what happens? One way or the other, if he does that, and the election, if it were to be held today, Trump would win. What happens between now and Election Day is going to be very interesting to watch. And I, again, remember my admonition to you, and that is that we're looking at a situation where we're assuming it's Biden and Trump. May not be Biden and Trump, and it may be Biden and Trump and some other people as well. So what we're up against and looking at today is probably not exactly what we will be voting on as we get to the fall. Things will change, and this picture will become immensely more complex. We'll stay on top of it each and every day right here on The Drive. And again, our Super Tuesday coverage will be something you want to tune in for or come by and join us at the Palace. Right now, 21 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. Well, I'm telling you, the folks at Busy Bee, they've got all kinds of stuff going on right now. This is the time of year where you're probably cranking up your air conditioner here for the first time since last year, and you may find that it's not getting the job done. Okay, that's fine. Just call the folks that I would call, the folks at Busy Bee, 615-775-7833. They will buzz over your hive, get you up and running. Listen, and here's the thing you need to know about HVAC systems and your plumbing as well. They're not designed to last forever. Things can happen. And the way you keep things running year to year is to be a member of the Beehive Club. That's all about preventative maintenance. You get 3 thorough maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. Never any overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guarantee, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Changes requested in the third grade retention law, and we'll have today's Money News. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air on this fourth day of March. We're one day away from Super Tuesday, and we will. I think that's sort of going to be a seminal mark in this election year. Because I think once all the results are in, let's say on March 6th, when we sit back and we join you on March 6th and look back at what has happened, I think that, we'll start to begin to see things clarify. I think it's very possible Trump will clinch. I think it's very possible Biden will clinch. And then, all eyes will turn to see what Nikki Haley is really up to. So it's going to be a very busy day. Now, I want to take you, imagine that it's Saturday. You find yourself at B&A. You are getting ready to take a flight. And you know how, the wonderful thing about B&A is you've always got somebody out there with a guitar. They're singing and they're performing. And, and it's usually, it's usually filled by people who've come to Music City to find their way to the stage and to become stars and be discovered. But instead of one of the wannabes, what you find is certified country superstar Keith Urban playing a performance. It sounded a little like this. I mean, just to have him pop up and do a little show. He said this was one of those pop-up shows, comes on the heels of his Ryman debut of his new single, Messed Up As Me, which I can't wait to hear. I haven't heard it all. Urban posted the videos on Instagram. He said, from the baggage claim to the real stage, so fun celebrating the release of Messed Up As Me with loads of Concourse C yesterday. A lot of people just walking by, and all of a sudden he's got a crowd. What? Wait a minute. That's Keith Urban. That isn't a somebody who wants to be a Keith Urban. That's actually Keith Urban.
I wonder how many people missed their flights because they said, oh, it's Keith Urban. I got to watch.
Well, there was one fan who was called up on stage with Urban. It's a little performance stage. You've seen it out there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And he had his arm around her, and he sang modified lyrics that include the line, "I'm gonna miss my flight." So it was a cute moment. And again, that's the wonderful thing about Nashville. I love it when these artists come into town and they do a pop-up show at one of the bars down on Lower Broad, or they drop into Tootsie's. That's really what I love about this town is you never are very far away from potentially bumping into somebody who is, one of your country music superstars. Because this is their home. This is where they live.
Yep.
And they love to perform in Nashville. And it's always great when, somebody decides they're going to drop by, do this, that, or the other. I love that part about it. Keith Urban, boy, what a great guitarist he is. What a great talent he is. I invite him to come by the Nashville Palace tomorrow night. It's the Palace.
That's right.
Certainly there could be some country music superstar who could come by and play a song for us at the Palace.
Yeah. We'll let you come in the back door and go out the back door. That way you can avoid the throngs.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm just throwing that out there to all my country music friends. Hint, hint. It'd be great if you showed up at the Palace.
Just drop
by. Get a
by.
microphone and a stool, and you can perform for everybody. And, and everybody will talk about it like we're talking about Keith Urban right now. I think that would be great fun. And if you don't, I will. And you don't want that to happen, really, honestly, because I've threatened to bring my guitar so I can perform at the Palace and say I performed there. I don't know. I'll probably do a Johnny Cash song if I do. It is now 30 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 74 degrees in Nashville. Gorgeous day in Music City. Got a forecast and a traffic report just ahead. Right now in Tennessee, the Tennessee Board of Education asking state lawmakers to consider changing the third grade retention law to impact K through third graders from third and fourth grades. News 2 says a resolution passed citing laws passed in 2021, which are giving data on K through third graders and provide necessary support for when a student isn't meeting reading standards earlier. Board Chairman Bob Eby says the board does not frequently pass resolutions which indicate how serious the board finds the topic of child retention in elementary schools. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger fills us in on Wall Street's activity.
Stocks slowed their roll a bit to start the week. The Dow fell 98 points, the Nasdaq closed down 67, and the S&P gave up 6. Momentum is slowing for stocks, which had been surging on excitement that inflation appears to be cooling, interest rate cuts may be coming, and that at least for now the economy has shrugged off predictions of a recession. JetBlue is backing away from its $3.8 billion plan to buy Spirit Airlines. A federal judge had blocked the merger, saying it would hurt consumers who depend on Spirit's lower fares. The European Union's fined Apple nearly $2 billion, accusing it of breaking competition laws by favoring its own music streaming service over rivals. Want to return something at Saks Fifth Avenue's Manhattan flagship store? You'll need a photo ID. The company is rolling out a new policy to combat return fraud, which the National Retail Federation says cost stores $101 billion last year.
And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
You know, I'm in the process of losing weight with help from the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon. You know, it's true. I lost a lot of weight last year, but you know what happens? I was going through some things. I lost some weight. And then when I started to feel better, guess what? The weight came right back. And I don't want it to get out of control. So I've turned to the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa to help me out. I really like the way Carly and Jamie and the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa approach this. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took the time to really look at my history and my lifestyle, and they customized a plan that best fit my needs. That's right. Again, it's a customized treatment plan. So why don't you do what I'm doing? Set up an appointment to develop your customized treatment plan at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and be a part of the more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Take advantage of the newest ideas in weight loss management. 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com. "37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. We're cranking out another exciting edition of The Drive for this fourth day of March. Hope you're getting home safely. I tell you what, I just made a little trip down to get a drink of water and stretch my legs for a moment. And the Bulldogs are lounging by the pool. And Cabana wife got home a little early today, so she's got her feet up. It's a beautiful day, man. Doors are wide open, windows are open, because it's just beautiful. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. The forsythia has begun to bloom, but I haven't yet been able to take my power tools and go out there and cut it into submission. You know, that's a never-ending battle. That forsythia is beautiful. Boy, it just gets unwieldy. It really does. So let's talk about a little Tennessee news. The governor has spent some time this weekend visiting with the Tennessee National Guard troops ahead of their deployment down to the border in support of the state of Texas. From WKRN, Governor Bill Lee flew across the state Saturday afternoon to meet with members of the Tennessee National Guard ahead of their deployment to the southern border. The event happened nearly a month after Lee and a dozen other Republican governors traveled to Texas to discuss border security. And during that visit, Lee committed to deploying 2 waves of Tennessee active duty soldiers to support the Lone Star State's efforts to improve border security. So they flew into John Tune Airport from John Tune to Memphis to greet Major General Warner Ross as he stepped off the plane and talked to the Army National Guard folks who were there. He's asked for 100 soldiers to volunteer. Get this, nearly 400 offered to go. Now, that's what we call the volunteer state, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. You ask for 100 and 400 show up. Man, oh man. Does that tell you something about the people in Tennessee wanting to do the right thing down there on the Texas border? Let's see, the group of approximately 50 National Guard members at the Armory was the first of 2 waves to be deployed through the spring for Operation Lone Star. Lee told the soldiers it was an honor to stand before them. He described his recent border visit, calling the various acts of human and drug trafficking a crisis for our country. He's right. The governor said things have to change, and the troops are part of that change. It's not lost on us, he said, that your family serves as well, adding that he and his wife will pray for the soldiers and their family as they support America by carrying out this mission. Man, I'm loving it. Listen, I'm glad we're doing it. Are we having to pay for it? Yeah, Tennesseans have to pay for the folks to go down to Texas. But you know what? When the federal government shirks its responsibility to make sure that the border is secure, and the state of Texas has taken on the onerous burden of trying to solve that problem without help from the federal government to try to, protect the people of Texas. And then they get all kinds of blowback for doing that, including some court rulings that said, you can't arrest people who come into your state illegally. I don't understand that. I'm glad that we in Tennessee are standing with the great state of Texas as we have before and all throughout history. Remember the Alamo. So all I'm saying is that kind of moment. I'm really glad that we are involved in doing that. I don't know how you feel, but I'm pretty good. I'm pretty okay with it. Two crime stories here. We don't know. We have a missing child and a crime story. We still don't know anything about 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers after a week of intense searches, and this is getting to be something else. So they have pulled back on some of the searching because, quite frankly, they've looked everywhere 3 or 4 times, and they're just not having any luck. So this does not diminish our commitment to finding Sebastian. This is simply us transitioning from the ground search to the investigative side, said Deputy Chief Eric Craddock with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. He said the decision to scale back does not come lightly. But at this point, they need to spend some time doing the investigation because, with every passing hour and some of the cold nights we've had, it is beginning to look bleak. And I don't want to give up hope because I believe in miracles, but that still, it's getting to be, the chances are getting bleak. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. The body of Emily Bradley has been found. Metro Nashville police say they found it in Whites Creek near Buena Vista Pike on Saturday. She's been identified as someone who was missing on February 21st. What's interesting is that she didn't drown. The cause of death, according to police, is blunt force trauma, and her car has not been recovered. So they're continuing to investigate that particular matter. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, yeah. Do you ever feel like that you're going through life here in Tennessee and you feel just a little, I don't know, what's the word for it? Stressed out, yeah. Who would have thought that Wilson would have called for the 21 pilots to be played on his program?
I would have never bet on
Never
that.
guessed that, yeah. Well, you can get stressed out. And apparently, according to one survey, and I don't know what to think about this survey, it seems to me sort of, it doesn't sound like it's based on much true science, but they have done a survey of stress in America. This is the American Psychological Association, Stress in America poll. And they say that at the top of the list, not California, not New York, that residents of these 10 states are the most stressed out. And I'm going to give you the states if I can just find them all here listed. The state with the most stressed out residents in America, according to this report, is Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. The volunteer state scored very high for the most health stress, coming in third for the highest levels of depression. Well, I don't know. People, I don't meet a lot of depressed people. 15.5% of residents said their physical health isn't good for more than 14 days out of the month. Residents of Tennessee work more than average Americans, and work brings stress. Came in number 3 for the most hours worked with an average of 42.3 hours a week. So here is number 10, Indiana. Number 9, West Virginia. Number 8 is Arizona. Number 7 is Georgia. Number 6 is South Carolina. Number 5, Nevada. Number 4, Louisiana. Number 3, Oklahoma. Number 2, Alabama. And number 1, Tennessee. I don't know why. A lot of these are southern states, and I don't know why they would list southern states as being particularly stressful. I think we have a pretty good life here in the middle part of the country. They say Alabama ranked number 2 largely due to work stress and health stress. Coming in number 3 is Oklahoma, which is the top spot for health stress, which can be linked to who are linked to the percentage of residents without health care. I don't know. Do you feel that? I mean, to me, I don't know what this is based upon, but I don't know. I think I've lived in a major metropolitan area for 31 years. 31 years I lived in the D.C. area, living in suburban Maryland, suburban Virginia, and I went to work every day in the District of Columbia, and that was a hell of a lot more stressful to me than living here in Middle Tennessee. I don't think that we're very stressful at all. I think we got a pretty good life.
God, Nashville seems like a pretty laid-back place for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't see a whole lot of stress. I mean, obviously, everywhere's stressed, but I wouldn't think top 10 for sure.
They say stress is normal and can actually be good for you. But once stress reaches a chronic level, it can cause health problems like insomnia, anxiety, high blood pressure, a weakened immune system. I don't know. I just don't feel it. I don't feel like this is right. And I think they need to take this back. I think it's a lot more stressful to live in New York, a lot more stressful to live in Los Angeles. I think there are a lot of cities where it's a lot more stressful to live. And I don't know. Nashville, we have our problems. We got some traffic, not like they have in other places, but we got traffic. And I suppose, there are people out there who, struggle to have good health care. And I guess that does cause you to have some stress. I don't know. But one way or the other, it seems like out of all 50 states, I don't know that I can go along with the concept that Tennesseans are the most stressed residents in America. I mean, there's nothing stressful about hot chicken and good food and great music and, having an adult beverage in a bar down on South Broad. I don't know. Lower Broad. Do you have any? I don't know.
Maybe finding parking if you're trying to go down.
Well, now that's stressful right there. Now that may be it. Maybe the American Psychological Association has missed the major thing here. It's the main reason that we have problem is we can't find any parking in downtown Nashville. That's probably it.
Could be it.
I mean, are there any other things about Tennessee that are particularly stressful? I can't think of what it would be. No, I mean, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Little traffic, that can be stressful. Having to deal with, the silliness of Nashville and finding a place to park. That could be a little stressful. Dealing with the pedal taverns, maybe that stresses people out.
Maybe the woo girls stress some people out.
Well, yeah, because they're always right there. That's stressful. I don't know. I sort of that doesn't make me stressed. I like the woo girls. I think they're fun when they're pedaling down the pedal tavern and the woo girls. I don't know. I can't think of what it would be, but one way or the other, apparently some people believe that it must be very stressful to live here in Tennessee. I mean, if you lived in Memphis, okay, I get that. I mean, they got crime and murder and
yeah.
I mean, and what we saw a poll the other day said the worst drivers in the country.
Yep.
I think it was right up at the top. Memphis, Tennessee was one of the worst. So, I mean, if you were living in Memphis, fine, I suppose. I tell you, here in bucolic Watertown, it's absolutely no stress.
The stress is, the local restaurant running out of your favorite dish before you get there.
Yeah, that
stress you got.
No, I don't think that's it. I think those blue lights cause us a little stress.
Yeah, well,
if you have not been to Watertown, we now consider ourselves the Kmart of small towns in Tennessee because we got a blue light special going on out here. And, even though Kmart doesn't exist anymore, we got blue lights when you come into town. This blinking blue light, obnoxious blinking blue light that tells you that there are cameras watching you. They're always, and there's like 5 of them. So that's stressful. My wife points out, Cabana wife points out that you can see one of the blue blinking lights from our mailbox.
Really?
Yeah. You can see the one downtown from our mailbox. And it irritates her. It just irritates the fool out of her.
Don't look.
We had some people into town. I said, welcome to Watertown, home of the blue light special as we drove into town. Because, I mean, it is just, yeah, they could do the same thing, just take out the blue lights.
It wouldn't be as effective. Maybe they want you to be stressed.
Maybe they're trying to, stress us all out. I don't know. But it's other than that, I think the most stressful thing is, that they run out of chicken down at the deli.
Yeah. It's a bad day.
Yeah. All right. We're going to call it there. Enough about that nonsense. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about the folks over at USS, United Structural Systems. They're the place to go if you have structural issues. But let me tell you, this time of year, you may notice that you have waterproofing issues. Maybe you find that you have standing water in a crawl space or wet basement walls or musty orders or floor joists with the wood rot, cracks in basement floors. Maybe you see that the hardwood floors that you have are starting to cup. This is your home trying to tell you something. Maybe you have poor drainage. Maybe you have surface water flooding over the walls. All of this stuff is possible this time of year. And if you have any of those issues, let me tell you, don't waste a moment. Call the folks at USS. They will come out and assess your situation. I'm telling you, they're very, very good at this, that they know exactly what they're doing. They have over 25,000 satisfied customers in the state of Tennessee. So listen, here's what will happen. They'll come out, they'll give you their best assessment, they'll tell you how to fix it. And you know what? They can. They really have the expertise to fix these problems. And if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. At USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
An Israel-Hamas war update. Third grade retention law changes could be on the way. Still no sight of that missing 15-year-old out of Sumner County, Wayne Rogers. And a bus driver hurt in a crash today. We'll give details at 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now, I will admit it's a little stressful here in Middle Tennessee, here in Watertown, when you go down to the coffee shop and they're out of those cranberry white chocolate muffins.
See, I told you.
I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, that just ruins your whole day right off the bat.
What about when you go to the bank of two Caitlin's and neither Caitlin is there?
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes one of the Caitlin's is over at the drive-in window. And so I don't get my Caitlin fix when I go in sometimes because neither one of the Caitlin's is there. They have a lot of other nice people there. But,
that could be stressful, though.
Yeah, I know. You come to expect certain things in your town. That's right. It is 57 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Hang around. You're listening to The Drive on Super Talk. So are you doing okay in this rough and tumble market? I know it is rough and tumble, and you may be wondering, how am I doing in retirement? Well, listen, I got a little thing that can help you. Beacon Capital Management has created a free retirement savings calculator to help you make informed decisions for retirement. It's free and it's fast. Doesn't take you long to go through it. You'll get your results immediately. And then you may have questions. Just go to askbeaconnow.com or call this number, 615-488-9303. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can help you get that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. You can replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 74 degrees, a sunny, gorgeous day on Music Row. We got a traffic report, a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The most forceful remarks so far from a top member of the Biden administration on the Israel-Hamas war coming today From Vice President Kamala Harris, details from Rena Roy.
A strong message from Vice President Kamala Harris as the humanitarian crisis grows in Gaza.
There must be an immediate ceasefire.
Harris meeting Monday with Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz, saying the Israeli government must allow more crucial aid into Gaza as it continues its barrage against Hamas. Israeli officials say they're working to ensure the aid does not end up in the hands of Hamas.
Right now in Tennessee, the Tennessee Board of Education is asking state lawmakers to consider changing the third grade retention law to impact K through third graders from third and fourth grades. News 2 says a resolution passed citing laws passed in 2021, which are giving data on K through third graders and providing necessary support for when a student isn't meeting reading standards earlier. Board Chairman Bob Eby says the board does not frequently pass resolutions, which indicates how serious the board finds the topic of child retention in elementary schools. Staying in Tennessee, officials announced today that they're going to be scaling back the search for Sebastian Rogers out of Sumner County. Channel 4's Lauren Lowy spoke to the parents to see if they have any idea on why Sebastian would have left the house.
Katie tells us that she woke up that morning and within 3 minutes, she knew Sebastian was not in the house and called 911. They say they have no idea what would have motivated him to leave the house. They say they have been fully cooperating with authorities and know they've also spoken with his biological father and those who know him from school.
Today is day 9 of him missing. He was last seen last Sunday, leaving his home wearing all black, carrying a flashlight. No evidence currently to suggest that he is not alive. Agencies as far as Knox County, the Tennessee National Guard, and the Army National Guard have all assisted in the search. And again, in the volunteer state, a crash. A bus driver was hurt after a crash in Franklin this morning near 4th Avenue North and Bridge Street. Franklin police reported 3 people on board the Franklin Special Schools District bus, and they were not injured. The driver of the vehicle is believed to have ran a stop sign. She was taken to an area hospital, minor injuries. No additional information was immediately released. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. That's right, 2 hours down, 2 to go here on the drive. I'm Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy. I am your Farb, and we're happy to be with you as you make your way home. We'll try to give you some news and information so you're up to speed on all the things that have happened while you've been at work, and you'll arrive home, completely well-informed about the events of the day. And we'll start with the Supremes today. Well, while I would like to talk about Diana Ross and the Supremes, I mean, come on. The Motown sound, that was great stuff, huh? Let's just listen. Let's just listen to a little of the Supremes. I'd rather do that than talk about the other Supremes, but we do have news we need to talk to, so sorry. We got a little carried away. Not those Supremes. We're talking about the Supreme Court of the United States, which came back with a big ruling today in favor of Donald Trump. So, look, there's a couple of things that are pending before the Supreme Court. One was, can Colorado kick him off the ballot, claiming that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the insurrection clause, means he should be disqualified and should not be on the ballot. That was the question before the High Court today, and the High Court ruled unanimously. I told you that I thought it might be unanimous. I thought it might be 8-1, but I really thought that the question of law to be decided here was so easy to understand that I thought it would be a unanimous decision, and that's what turned out to happen. All 9 justices, sort of bee-slapped the Colorado Supreme Court and said, no. Section 3, Article 14, the insurrection clause you do not have the authority to apply that because you're a state. Colorado forgot that it was a state. Only that's a federal matter, and that part of the Constitution applies. Only person who can say he's not qualified to serve would be the Congress, and they would have to impeach him on insurrection and get a conviction, and then they could go forward and say, the Congress could say, no, you shouldn't be on the federal ballot because you're an insurrectionist. But that never happened. I mean, sure, Donald Trump was impeached by the Democrat House. Surprise, surprise, surprise. But he was, and there was never any conviction. And I don't think insurrection was one of the things that they charged him with. I can't remember, but I don't think that was. One way or the other, he wasn't convicted. He's no charge of insurrection has ever been brought against Donald Trump. And in fact, in all of the January 6 cases, they're very careful to talk about, well, you obstructed a public meeting and you entered a place you weren't supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. They do all that, but they don't actually suggest that any of these people have committed insurrection. They're not charged with insurrection. So that the Colorado Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, decides to take Donald Trump off the ballot and say, you can't be on the ballot because you're an insurrectionist, was wrong. From the High Court opinion, I read page 6. This case raises the question whether the states, in addition to Congress, may also enforce Section 3. We conclude that states may disqualify persons from holding or attempting to hold state office, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. So that was sort of like the key paragraph. But then let me read toward the end here as they wrap up their decision. By the way, 9 votes in favor. We don't really know who the author of this opinion was. It was the court speaking, as they said, in one voice. So here's the summation. For the reasons given, responsibility for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress and not the states. The judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court, therefore, cannot stand. All 9 members of the court agree with that result. Now, our colleagues writing separately further agree with many of the reasons this opinion provides for reaching it, but they did quibble. There were 3 members of the High Court, 4 members actually of the High Court who quibbled, but they still agreed with the overall outcome. That's lawyers. Lawyers quibble. over fine points, but I'll get into that in just a moment. As far as we can tell, the final ruling goes, they object only to our taking into account the distinctive way Section 3 works and the fact that Section 5 vests in Congress the power to enforce it. These are not the only reasons that states lack power to enforce this particular constitutional provision with respect to federal offices, but they are important ones. And it is the combination of all the reasons set forth in this opinion, not as some of our colleagues would have it, just one particular rationale, that resolves this case. In our view, each of these reasons is necessary to provide a complete explanation for the judgment of the court unanimously reaches. The judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court is reversed, and the mandate shall issue forthwith. You got to get that forthwith in there. That's good stuff. So I look a little deeper. You have what they call a concurring opinion, but a quibble by Amy Coney Barrett, who is a conservative on the high court. And she says, I join parts 1, 2, and 2B of the court's opinion, and I agree that states lack the power to enforce Section 3 against the president. That principle is sufficient to resolve this case, and I would decide no more than that. And she thinks the court went a little too far in explaining some of the reasons, but listen how she ends up. The court has settled a politically charged issue in the volatile season of a presidential election. Particularly in this circumstance, writings on the court should turn the national temperature down, not up. For present purposes, our differences are far less important than our unanimity. All 9 justices agree on the outcome of this case, and that is the message that Americans should take home. So she has a quibble, a minor legal quibble, but she overall agrees with the outcome. She just thinks that the majority opinion went too far. Then you have the 3 liberals on the court, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, concurring in the judgment, agreeing with the decision, but they get a little in the weeds on about where they disagree slightly. But again, it's a quibble. Overall, it's a 9-0 ruling with 4 concurring opinions that quibble with minor parts of the majority opinion. So the court speaks with one voice. It is exceedingly rare in this day and time, with the very difficult issues that the high court has to decide, that you get a 9-0 ruling on anything. But, I mean, this was a very forceful pushback on the state of Colorado, which had way overstepped its bounds, and it puts to stop. There's some 30 states right now where variations of what was brought forth in Colorado are percolating through state legal systems. This puts all of that to rest. Dead. Done. There is no way, and this was very much what we expected to happen, but still, nonetheless, it was nice to sort of, get it finally decided. Donald Trump was very pleased.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well.
Yeah, they did that very well, and so he was very pleased by that. It is a big ruling. Now, there is another Supreme Court matter that regards Donald Trump, and it has to do with the January 6th case being brought by Jack Smith, and it has to do with whether or not he has immunity. Now, Jack Smith, the prosecutor, had asked the high court to rule on that because he felt like, well, if we get into the trial and they raise the issue, then we're going to have to come and get a ruling from somebody. So he just appealed to the Supreme Court. Would you please take up this issue and decide it? As I recall, I think Donald Trump wanted that as well, but I think I'm correct in saying Jack Smith who asked for the high court to rule on that matter. All right, so that they're not even going to hear that argument until the 22nd day of April. Now, imagine this, the high court's decision that came out today. For the high court, they argued it on February 7th, and now here it is just a little less than a month later, they've issued an opinion. That's warp speed for the high court. Warp speed. They never work that fast generally. But they're not going to hear arguments until April 22nd. Let's say it takes a month It may be longer, but let's say it takes a month. That's April, May, maybe even into June before they rule on that matter. The trial then, as it is widely expected that Trump won't win this one, quite frankly. Most legal experts, even conservative legal experts, say he's out on a limb here, but, we need to have this determined. So, but if they come back and say, no, Trump, you didn't win this particular question, then the trial could start, but there's going to be 3 months of pretrial motions, June, July, August, maybe, before they could start the trial. And then that's going to be right in the throes of the election, October, December, September, November, October, November. That's going to be right in the very throes, the final throes of the presidential election. And by tradition, the Justice Department has sort of an unwritten policy that's been followed widely over the years. You don't bring political cases during the political season. You don't want to interfere with the political process. Now, will they then go forward with a trial right in the middle of an election? If they do, it will be in violation of a long-held principle that the Department of Justice has followed. All right? So I don't know. That matter, the fact that the Supreme Court is taking it up, is largely seen as a victory for Trump because it pushes everything way down. Way down. And I guarantee you that the lawyers, you know what they say about lawyers. They can argue it square. They can argue it round. But basically, they just like to argue. That's what lawyers do. They like to argue. If the facts are on your side, you pound the facts. If the law is on your side, you pound the law. If neither the law or the facts is on your side, you pound the table. I mean, that's the old saying, right? And so, lawyers, they can be very dilatory and drag this thing out. So it may be entirely possible that none of this gets before a jury before Election Day. One way or the other, it would be highly irregular for the for the Justice Department to begin a trial that has political implications during a political season in the final throes of a political year. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but one way or the other, that's the other Supreme Court matter that is still pending. Big picture, step back 30,000 feet. They say there's some 91 indictments pending against Trump for this, that, and the other. I think most Americans understand what this is. This is Democrats weaponizing the law to come after somebody they dislike. They want to hurt him any way they can. So you got people out there filing lawsuits. This nonsense in Colorado that the Supreme Court pushed back on. You got all these, the Fannie Willis case falling apart. Jack Smith's case may well fall apart. We've already seen that the High Court, or that the Justice Department decided not to bring documents charges against Joe Biden. Why then would they continue to bring documents charges against Donald Trump? Why? Why would you do that? Isn't what's good for the goose good for the gander? I don't know, but it seems like to me there are real questions about whether that case should go forward. And we know that this whole thing that happened in New York State, where Trump was given a $355 million fine and told he can't run businesses because allegedly he inflated the value of his company. That's a sham verdict. And it's not even a verdict of the people. It's a verdict of a very slanted judge. And I think that's going to be overturned on appeal as well. So there are cracks in all of these cases. But it doesn't matter, because the people who love Donald Trump see that for what it is, an attempt to find something that sticks. And so the more they indict him, the more his numbers go up. And as Donald Trump joked one day, they're going to indict me all the way to the White House, and that may well be true. So again, a major victory today for Donald Trump, and a lot of the things that are pending out there starting to show cracks, starting to show fissures. But good ruling today from the Supremes. So it is now 21 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
More humanitarian aid to Gaza, tax breaks for Tennessee small businesses, and chilling new details in the death of a pregnant Amish woman in Pennsylvania. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Maury's Wide, Wild World of Sports. And now here he is, the man, the myth, the legend. You know him, you love him, you cannot live without him. It is the incomparable Mac Maury.
Hello. Happy Monday. How we doing, boys?
Someday I'm just going to come on and say, here's Mac.
I'm going to have no idea what to do.
What happened? Where am I?
Aren't I incomparable? Wait, what's going on?
I like the stinger at the end.
Still, we need the stinger.
You got to have the stinger. All right, so what's up today?
So, midst of off season, we got the combine last week. We're going to be covering that a little bit this week, some after the stuff. If you really want to get deep into the combine, behind the box score, I'm going to have Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio on my podcast. We're going to dive deep into all the prospects and all of what the Titans should be doing.
Good get.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be very fun. Rhett's a great guy, so we're going to have him on the podcast this week. But for today, we're going to stick to some current news. The NFL, trades haven't started yet, but franchise tags have begun. We're getting into the midst of, looking at cap space. Who can we sign? Who's going to be dropped? Who is going to be a free agent? Who's getting released? Well, once upon a time, a big name player was released today, or he will be released in the matter of 8 days. Come March 12th, he'll be a free agent. That is Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Once upon a time, a Super Bowl champion for the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm making the case here today on Mac's Wide Wild World of Sports that this is the worst.
Get that name right.
Yeah, thank you. This is the worst trade in NFL history. That's the case that I'm making today. The Denver Broncos 2 years ago signed Russell Wilson to a 5-year, $242 million contract. They are now going to over double the amount of dead cap taken by an NFL team. Previously, it was $42 million. Just to get rid of Russell Wilson, they're going to take $85 million in dead cap over the next 2 seasons just to have him not play for him. This was a signing when it happened 2 seasons ago that was like, okay, this is going to elevate the Broncos back into Super Bowl contention. And it took 1 quarter before the Denver Broncos were booing Russell Wilson. They were counting down the play clock in the first week of the season because they had 3 delay of game penalties against them in the first week of the season. I mean, it was just fans were penned against them. We knew from the get-go that this just wasn't right. And we said, okay, well, they need a new coach. They didn't have any, Nathaniel Hackett from the New York Jets. That didn't work out. Let's go bring him Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning head coach with Drew Brees. Well, last year it didn't look much better. Payton was able to hide a couple of blemishes from Russell Wilson's game, but he's 35, 36 years old now. He doesn't have the athleticism. He never really had a great arm. And all of a sudden, the Denver Broncos have given up, let me get this right here, just so I get the slew of capital that they gave up here correct. They gave up 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, a 5th-round pick, another 2nd-round pick, Drew Lock, a tight end, Noah Fant, who's doing very well, a defensive lineman who has had a solid career, Shelby Harris, $124 million in cash, and all that to go for 11 and 19 in 20 and 30 games.
Wow. Yeah, that could definitely rank right up there with the worst trades ever.
That's horrible. Wow.
I think this is up there with the Herschel Walker trade because I think that would be the next, biggest, worst trade in NFL history, trading for a running back that never had a 1,000-yard season for the Minnesota Vikings. They traded 4 late-round picks, received 3 draft picks, but they got rid of a first, a second-rounder, and they got rid of 4 players, all for Herschel Walker to play for a season and a half for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. So I think we witnessed one of the worst trades in NFL history for the Denver Broncos, and it's going to completely set their franchise back now. $85 million.
Maybe for a lot of years. I mean, it's going to take a long time to work your way out of all that. Golly.
Absolutely, because not only did you spend money, you used draft capital. There are players that now are on other teams who you used your picks to go get those guys. I mean, quality NFL players, and now you're looking at, and they spent a lot of money in the offensive line last year to protect Russell Wilson. I mean, they're in this deep, and they're happen to be in a division with, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. So it's not like they've got easy competition either. It's going to be a tough road to hoe for them.
Is Wilson retiring? Is he done, or is he going to try to?
I think he'll stay. I think he wants to keep playing. He said his goal is to win 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years. He's won 1 in the first 10 years of his career, but now he's got this lofty goal of 2 in the next 5.
So he wants to go play for a really good team and ride the bench.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think the Chiefs need a backup quarterback, but maybe he can come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but where does a guy like Wilson land?
So what's good for him is he's got 2 years, $85 million he's going to make from the Broncos the next 2 years.
I'd head for the beach if I were him.
I think I would too, but if he wants to keep playing, a team can bring him on for vet minimum and say, you know what, if you start, that's great. If you don't, you can work your way up, but that's what you're going to do here. We're not paying you any money. And he'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Listen, time to take off the snazzy sports hat, put on the news hat, because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
.531, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 74 degrees, beautiful day in Nashville. Traffic report, weather forecast in 5 minutes. The Pentagon says it's planning more humanitarian aid and food drops on Gaza after it delivered thousands of meals by parachute this weekend. Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
The U.S. military dropped 38,000 meals on the beach in Gaza, trying to help relieve hunger as the war continues. Pentagon spokesperson saying the number isn't nearly enough to deal with the civilian Gaza population's acute hunger, and it's planning more airdrops of MREs or meals ready to eat, the same meals that many U.S. servicemen and women rely on in the field.
Some Tennessee money news. Channel 4 says that more than 100,000 small businesses in Tennessee will no longer have to file a business tax. The Tennessee Works Act eliminates tax filing obligation for any business with under $100,000 in annual gross sales. This change applies to tax periods ending on or after December 31st, 2023. This still requires businesses to keep their business licenses up to date. And some chilling new details in the death of a pregnant Amish woman in Pennsylvania. Derek Dennis brings details.
Court documents show 23-year-old Rebecca Byler had her throat slashed, was lying in a pool of blood, and had an apparent scalping wound on her head when she died while pregnant last month in her Amish country, Pennsylvania home. She was discovered by her husband and another woman who called 911 after finding her lying on her back. A motive in Byler's death is unclear, but suspect Sean Cranston from Corey, Pennsylvania, has been arrested and is facing charges of criminal homicide, including that of an unborn child, burglary, and criminal trespass. Police say leads, interviews, and evidence collection led to Cranston's arrest.
And that's the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
I'm going to talk about King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood. Over 25 years, this company has been in business as an independent agency in Brentwood. Now, an independent agency, that's an advantage for you. You want an independent agent. That's what you want. You want somebody that's not wedded to one product. Why? Well, because if you just have one product, that's what you sell, right? If you're an independent agent, then you can sell a whole bunch of different kinds of policies. You can shop around, find something that really meets your needs. I mean, so the idea here is that, if you're going to pay for insurance, get as much bang for your buck out of your insurance dollar as you possibly can. And that's what an independent agent can bring to you. The other thing I love about this company is that they are a local company, and you get great customer service. Now, if you've ever done business with one of the internet insurance companies, you know how maddening it can be if you have a question. You call in and you get a phone tree. You get somebody with a recording that says, "Please stand by. We have heavy volumes and we'll get to you eventually. And your call is very important to us." And you know that's not true. If it was, they would answer you. You call this number, 615-329-8121, and you're going to get an actual person on the line each and every time. They are the kings of the multi-policy discount. Get your royal review with King & Associates. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates. You'll get royal treatment and great rates. It is 39 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. You're on Super Talk 99.7. So glad that you're with us on this beautiful day. I mean, it's starting to cool off a little bit, but I mean, what was our high? Did we hit 78?
Yeah, 77, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's good stuff right there. Won't be long before we hit an 80. But, this is that time of year where the weather's very changeable, so you never know what you're going to get.
That's right.
That's right. So, but I'm happy. Boy, it was nice today. Really nice. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday. So if you haven't cast your ballot, you want to get out there and vote early. I mean, boy, what a busy day this is going to be for yours truly. I mean, you're not going to believe the day I got scheduled tomorrow. So I gotta be on with Dan Mandis at 8:05 because we're doing a little thing called Road to the White House. So that's 8:05. Then I got to run over and vote, right? And then I got to come back and do an 11:35 with Chris Hand, and then I gotta load up all my stuff and go to the Nashville Palace. Why? Because we're doing our big Super Talk Live event there tomorrow, and so at 2:35 I'll be on the air from the Palace with Chris Plant. I'm sorry, not with Chris Plant. With Matt Murphy. Golly, where did that come from? Matt Murphy, and then I'll be doing the regular show from 3 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock, everybody joins us, the whole team. It's Dan, Chris Hand, Matt Murphy, and me, all for a night of fun, food, and conversation at the Palace. And you can join us. Still possible to join us. Just RSVP, let us know you're coming, and you're entered immediately in a big contest to win a massive hot chicken or barbecue tailgate package that will serve 25 of your closest friends or me. You know, if you don't have 25 friends and you win, then just, feed me, because I'll be hungry. It all starts I'm not going to get time to eat it all tomorrow. It all starts at 6 o'clock. That's when the big thing, but I'll be there at 3. Come a little early if you want. Details at 997WTN.com. Brought to you by the Glock Store at shoot270.com, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and membersnutrition.com. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate your support. I think it's going to be a blowout, Chris. I've been talking to people, and a lot of people say they're going to be there. So I think we're going to have a really good turnout. It'll be a fun night as we watch the returns come in. So this is a very important week. Let's just talk about all the things that are going on right now. March 5th, Super Tuesday, we vote. And then on March 7th, we have the State of the Union address where Biden is going to come out and expected to be very partisan. And then on March 8th, the No Labels folks hold their virtual convention to decide whether or not they're going to put a candidate in the field. So a lot of things will happen this week. Very important week in the road to the White House. So keep an eye out on all of that stuff. So there you go. Now, speaking of the State of the Union, the president is at Camp David, I think, today. I don't think he's coming back yet. And everybody was saying, well, he doesn't have anything on his agenda. They issue the president's daily agenda, and it was blank. He's at Camp David, and it's blank. Well, I'll tell you, it's not blank. What he's doing is he's practicing his State of the Union speech, putting the final touches on that, because they understand they're in trouble. And we'll go through all the numbers here a little bit later, but he's in trouble. He's in very serious trouble. And he understands that there has to be a turnaround, and they are looking to the State of the Union address to turn it around. And he's got to give, I think, if he has any hope of doing that. I'm not hoping this happens. I think we'll probably get a pretty traditional speech. But Democrats are saying if he doesn't turn it around here, then it's bad. It's bad for the Democrats. So he's going to have to give the performance of a lifetime if he's going to turn things around, because things are looking pretty bleak for him right now. So I guarantee you, they're at doing the practice run-throughs. They're making him stand in front of the teleprompter. They're polishing the speech. He does a morning session. He takes a nap, comes back, does an afternoon session. And so they want him to be very familiar with this speech and ready to go, and rested, by the way. They don't want him to be tired. So there you have that. This story from the Post-Millennial. On Thursday, fresh off the heels of Super Tuesday, Joe Biden will deliver this year's State of the Union address, hoping to persuade Americans that under his leadership, the country is not only surviving, but thriving. The president's speech is expected to be divisive, pitting MAGA Republicans and any American who leans right against Democrats and the left, painting the former as being on the wrong side of every issue, both domestic and foreign. Biden has made such speeches before, as he did in front of Independence Hall with a blood-red backdrop. Remember that one? That was scary. Many Americans saw this as something that would incite conflict. President Biden will make the case to continue to build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And again, here's the thing. He can say all that he wants to say, that it's successful. The Bidenomics are successful. But most people, understand their financial situation. Most people understand that they're not in a good place right now. According to NBC News, Biden is also likely to draw attention to the numerous conflicts the United States is funding around the world, namely Ukraine's continued fight against Russian aggression, and suggest that his administration is on the right side of history. A Democrat member of Congress who spoke on condition of anonymity told the outlet they would like to see Biden address Israel's war against Hamas and the toll that it's had on civilians in Gaza. You know, he's really getting creamed for his conduct and support of Israel. And now I believe that support of Israel in this matter is very important. But the young Democrats are all over him about this. And I saw a poll number. Let me see if I can find it here right off the bat. I've got it here somewhere. Yeah, here it was. When it comes to his handling of the Israeli-Hamas war and the U.S.'s handling of our part of it, only 31% of Americans approve of that, and 62% disapprove. That's pretty shocking. And I don't know why they disapprove. Maybe the people who support Israel don't think he's doing enough. Maybe the people who support Gaza, people and Palestinians in Gaza and Hamas, that's what they're doing. They're supporting Hamas. Maybe they feel like he's doing too much and nobody's satisfied. Maybe that's why that number is so bad, but it's bad. It's completely bad, and he's got to walk a tightrope on that because he understands that if he hacks off the Muslim and Arab Americans in Michigan, he could well lose his path to the White House because that's a battleground state, and he's losing it. And the Arab Americans and the Muslim Americans in Michigan are all upset about that. So he's got to somehow mollify them, but not hack off the people who believe the United States should stand with Israel. What a tightrope that is. I don't know how you thread that needle, but that'll happen. So remember, you got Super Tuesday tomorrow. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. And then come and join us out at the Nashville Palace. Then on the 7th, State of the Union, and on the 8th, the No Labels virtual convention where we find out what they're up to. A lot of stuff going on. Also in the swamp, this hacks me off. I don't know why in the world he felt necessary to do this. Attorney General Merrick Garland on Sunday declared that efforts by states to implement voter ID laws are, quote, unnecessary and burdensome. That's right. That's what he said. He said we shouldn't have to have voter ID laws. Just anybody should be able to show up and just cast a ballot. We don't need to know who they are. We don't need to know where they live. We don't need to know that they voted 2 or 3 times. I think voter ID laws are the single most important thing to maintaining voter integrity. And you know what? There's a lot of ways you can do this. Do you have a Social Security card? Maybe that will prove who you are. I mean, if you're getting Social Security, you should be able to do that. Maybe, get some kind of government document. A driver's license is too much trouble. What if you don't drive? Well, I guess there are people who don't drive, but you know what? You can get a state ID. Why is it wrong for us to require people to identify and prove they are who they say they are when they do the most important thing in a democracy, which is cast your ballot? But here we have Merrick Garland speaking at a church in Selma, Alabama. He was commemorating the 59th anniversary of the Selma demonstrator march that ended so badly. He claimed that the right to vote is still under attack, though he provided little evidence in his speech on how requiring identification would be an assault on voting rights. There are many things that are open to debate in America, he said. One thing that must not be open for debate is the right of all eligible citizens to vote and have their vote counted. Yeah, just once, right? The Attorney General said the Department of Justice is fighting back against states that have passed bills requiring ID that would prove such eligibility to cast ballots. I think that matter needs to go to the Supreme Court. We need to decide that. I don't think, and many states have decided that it's not an onerous burden to you to prove who you are when you show up to cast your ballot. There are some places you can get a utility bill. If you live somewhere, you have a utility bill. Something. I mean, who doesn't have some form of ID? I reject this idea that it's a burdensome requirement on voters. I think it's the bare minimum we have to do to make sure that people are voting the way they're supposed to vote. One person, one vote. Prove you are who you say you are, and you'll get no argument from me. That's the least that we should require as we carry out the most important action we can as citizens. So I guess, and remember, don't forget to go vote tomorrow. I got to squeeze that in, but I'm going to be all over the place tomorrow. I'm here, there, and everywhere trying to get ready for this thing at the Nashville Palace. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. What was it like the last time you were at an auto repair shop where there's smelly, greasy old rags lying around? The other thing that stinks is the repair shop that keeps your car forever, not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, you need to try the folks at Eurofix. Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment and never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
It is 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 72 degrees in Nashville. Traffic and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. A ceasefire deal waiting for a handshake. If Hamas agrees, the conflict with Israel will be on hold for 6 weeks. Tom Sufi Burridge in Tel Aviv.
Those calls for a ceasefire also upping the pressure on the Israeli government to get more aid into the Gaza Strip. We saw those U.S. aid drops beginning this weekend. Not a huge amount of food aid actually reaching people inside Gaza as a result of those airdrops, but an important statement from the Biden administration about how serious the situation is.
UNICEF telling us that the situation gets worse by the hour, and they're saying they're seeing more cases of children dying from dehydration and malnourishment. They're warning it could quickly skyrocket if there's not a ceasefire and if more aid does not get into the Gaza Strip quickly. Right now in Tennessee, officials announced today that they're going to be scaling back that search for Sebastian Rogers out of Sumner County. Channel 4's Lauren Lowry spoke to the parents to see if they have any idea why Sebastian would have left.
And Katie tells us that she woke up that morning and within 3 minutes, she knew Sebastian was not in the house and called 911. They say they have no idea what would have motivated him to leave the house. They say they have been fully cooperating with authorities and know they've also spoken with his biological father and those who know him from school.
Today, day 9 of him missing. He was last seen leaving his home on Sunday wearing all black. No evidence currently to suggest that he's not alive. Agencies as far as Knox County, the Tennessee National Guard, and the Army National Guard have all assisted in that search. Some Tennessee money news. Channel 4 says that more than 100 small businesses in Tennessee will no longer have to file a business tax. The Tennessee Work Tax eliminates tax filing obligation for any business with under $100,000 in annual gross sales. This change applies to tax periods ending on last year, December 31st. This still requires businesses to keep their business license up to date. And in sports, that's a career for one of the Kelsey brothers, as we hear from Alex Stone.
Fighting through emotion, Jason Kelsey announcing he is officially retiring from football. The Eagles center spent his entire 13-season career in Philadelphia, saying,
"It has truly been a privilege. You have all been so good to me and my family."
He's considered retirement for a while, but he kept coming back. After his announcement, Kelsey hugged his brother Travis and their parents and kissed his wife.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, okay, here we are in the fourth and final hour on this Monday, March 4th. I mean, still very pleasant evening outside, 70 degrees. What a day, huh? Man, I'll take that one and a few more like it. That was great. That was a fabulous day. Good way to, look, you can say it's not spring yet, but it feels like spring. You know, daffodils are blooming, forsythia's blooming. I'm ready for some milder weather, but we have lots of stuff to cover here today. If you were with us earlier, you heard me recap how the Supreme Court put to bed 9-0 this, bull stuff that was coming from the state of Colorado, saying that Donald Trump couldn't be on the ballot there because he was an insurrectionist. The Supreme Court 9-0. I mean, even the liberals on the court were happy to jump in there and say, no, Colorado, interesting idea, not really, constitutional what you've done here, because you're a state, Colorado, and the federal government has say over, who commits insurrection and can only apply Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So, since they haven't done that, Donald Trump gets to be on the ballot in Colorado, and it puts to rest 30 other cases that have been brought around the country. So that's a big dog deal. But tomorrow is Super Tuesday. Don't forget to vote. You got to vote. You got to vote. And let's go ahead and do a 2024 update, because a lot of stuff happened over the weekend that we need to sort of plow through. Really, really something. Tomorrow, 15 states and the all-important, what do they call it? It's not a state. It's I don't know. What do they call American Samoa? A territory. Yeah. So the all-important territory of American Samoa will cast their ballots. And the American Samoans, they don't want you to forget about them. They feel like they're neglected, and we don't think about them near enough. And it's probably true. So let's not forget the American Samoans. But we got 15 states. Would you like to know the states that are up for grabs tomorrow? I have them right here. They are Alabama, Alaska, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, our own Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia. All those states will be going to the polls. Up for grabs, 30% of the Democrat delegates, 36% of the GOP delegates. So Donald Trump needs 1,215 delegates to clinch. He has 244, and available tomorrow, 1,639. He could clinch. He could be the nominee before the evening is over. Joe Biden probably will clinch. He needs 2,330 delegates to clinch. There are 2,827 delegates available, so he probably will clinch the nomination tomorrow. And then what happens after that is anybody's guess, but he will be the prospective nominee, waiting the convention to make it official. But we have 58 delegates up for grabs here in the state of Tennessee. This is important stuff. Go cast your ballot. Let people know how you feel. This is apparently 1/3 of all delegates are really up for grabs on Super Tuesday. So that's how important this all is. Now, a lot was made of the fact that Nikki Haley won the District of Columbia. I don't care. 63 delegates, 63% of the vote in the District of Columbia, 2,000 Republicans voted. That's right. 2,000 people voted in the Republican primary out of a population of 715,000. That's how many people live in the District of Columbia. There are only 23,000 registered Republicans in the District of Columbia out of 713 or 15,000 people, which tells you that there aren't many Republicans, and those that do live in the District of Columbia, very moderate Republicans. It's no surprise that the swamp doesn't like Donald Trump. So no surprise that Nikki Haley could find her only win in the District of Columbia. Not paying any attention to the fact that Trump over the weekend won the caucuses in Missouri, Michigan, and in Idaho. So there you go. There are polls that are out today, though, that are absolutely disastrous for Joseph Biden. And I'm going to run through all of them, okay? A whole bunch of them that came out over the weekend. General election. Again, we don't decide elections on the popular vote, but it is interesting to note, and it's a good metric to look at. Gives you some sense of where people are. Fox has Trump winning if the election were held today by 2 in a 2-way race and a 5-way race, and it may be a 6-way race before it's all over with. They have Trump winning by 3. Wall Street Journal has Trump by 2 in a 5-way race, Trump by 5. CBS has Trump by 4. New York Times. There's a really interesting poll by the New York Times and Siena College. Trump leading Biden by 4. We're starting to get to the margin of error here. So, we're getting to the point now where he's starting to solidify. As we told you, Trump now leads in all 7 of the battleground states, all 7 by various amounts, some of them quite substantial. But in that New York Times Siena College poll, there is a lot of information that does not look good for Biden. For one thing, 10% of Democrats who once voted for Biden now say they will support Trump. That's right. They're disillusioned with the Democrat Party, and they say that they will vote for Trump. 78% of those surveyed said they believed that the border was a major problem in America. And that includes 66% of all Democrats. The Democrats realize it's a major problem, right? Right? And so then you have this other thing that Biden has to contend with, which I don't think bodes well for him. The New York Times Siena poll asked, how do you feel like the president has handled the Israeli-Hamas conflict, the American part of that? Only 31% approved. 62% disapproved. So what that means is, I think you probably would believe that all Republicans would say, I disapprove of the way he handled it, most of them. But what that tells me is that there's a fair number of Democrats who have also joined the Republicans in saying that they disapprove of conduct. Only 31% approve. So that's not good because he has, if you look at this, 10% of Democrats are now saying they will switch over and vote for Trump. He's got a big problem on the border. He's got a big problem with the thing in Israel. I mean, that one's really going to bite him on the butt in Michigan. Because in Michigan, you have Arab American voters and Muslim American voters who are upset with the way he has supported Israel. All right? I believe supporting Israel is the proper thing to do in this particular case. But there are a lot of people out there who apparently are really on his left flank who are absolutely apoplectic, and these Arab American and Muslim voters in Michigan are not going to vote for Joe Biden. They're just not gonna. And if that's the case, he loses the state of Michigan, and most people believe there is no pathway to the presidency if Joe Biden loses Michigan. So the whole Israeli-Hamas thing is really a problem for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he walks that tightrope when he gives his State of the Union address on the 7th. And then the other question is, what in the world is going on with Nikki Haley? Yeah, she won. She won the primary in D.C., but she's not going to win any other state tomorrow, I don't think. I'd be surprised. So she was asked this weekend, and it's sort of a way to find out what her long-term plans were. The reporter asked a very clever question. Do you still stand by your pledge that you will support Donald Trump? Now, if you ask her, are you going to run as an independent, she won't give you a straight answer. But if you ask her a question about, are you going to still stand by that pledge to support Donald Trump, that's a difficult question, because if she says no, then it says, well, then she's got something else up her sleeve. If she says yes, she could give a half-hearted, endorsement and move on and suspend her campaign. So here's how she answered the question.
Are you bound by the RNC pledge?
The RNC pledge, at the time of the debate, We had to take it to where, would you support the nominee? And you had to, in order to get on that debate stage, you said yes.
Hold on a minute. Now, yes, that's true. You had to say yes, but did you say something you didn't mean when you said yes? Or were you just playing the politics of convenience at the moment? Well, to get on this stage, I have to say yes, so I'll say yes, but I'm crossing my fingers behind my back. I mean, is that what you meant? It goes on.
The RNC is now not the same RNC. Now it's
So you're no
Trump's
longer bound
daughter-in-law.
by that pledge?
No, I think I'll make what decision I want to make, but that's not something I'm thinking about.
Well, hold on a minute. What do you mean you're not thinking about it? You made a promise. You signed the pledge. So why aren't you going to support Donald Trump? Well, I'll think about that. I'm not thinking about that right now. No, she's thinking about it because she's got something up her sleeve.
And I think that while y'all think about that, I'm looking at the fact that we had thousands of people in Virginia. We're headed to North Carolina. We're going to continue to go to Vermont and Maine and all these states to go and show people that there is a path forward.
Well, there's no path forward for her as a Republican, and that will be made abundantly clear tomorrow night. Now, by the way, it's going to take a while for some of these results to come in. I mean, let's talk about these states where some of them are. Some of the big, well, you got Texas and Tennessee and a whole bunch of southern states in the central time zone. You've got Colorado in the mountain time zone. You've got Alaska. I don't even know what time zone is Alaska in. The Alaskan time zone. You've got Arizona in the mountain time zone. You've got I don't know. You got Vermont and Virginia are on the East Coast, but Utah is out west. So I mean, it's going to take a while. And California, Pacific, on the Pacific time zone. So it's going to take a long time for these. But I mean, there's no doubt Donald Trump is going to annihilate Nikki Haley on Super Tuesday. It's going to be over for Nikki Haley. Her pathway is not. She will have no pathway because Trump will likely clinch or come very close. So I don't know what her plan is, but she's being squirrely about answering questions like this. By the way, brilliant question. I'll have to give it to the reporter who asked that question, because if you had asked her direct out, are you going to be an independent candidate for the presidency, she would hem and haw and not answer. But asking her the question about, will you stand by your pledge? If she says yes, then it prevents her from going forward in another way. Now, she has been very clear that she doesn't like the idea of the No Labels Party, because the No Labels Party, which holds their virtual convention on March 8th, will require that if you were the presidential candidate and you're a Republican, you would have to accept a Democrat as your vice presidential running mate. That's the idea of a unity party ticket. And she doesn't like the idea of having a Democrat as her vice president. So she's sort of talking as if she's not interested in the no labels. That doesn't mean she's not interested in running as an independent. And I'll say it again, although it incurs the wrath of some people. As a Republican, she has no viable pathway. No viable pathway. As an independent, she has at least some viability. I'm not sure she can win, but she can pull in a good number of voters, and that could complicate the math on all of this as we go forward. So all eyes on Nikki Haley after Super Tuesday, but tomorrow it's going to be Donald Trump's day in a big way, as he is very likely to clinch the nomination to be the Republican nominee for the White House. 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Grace Point delivers medicine affordably with a menu-style, transparent pricing so you know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month, and for that you get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you take that and marry it with a high-deductible insurance plan that you may have been required to take, very high deductible, you might actually save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reason why it's been voted the best primary care provider year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. You know, if you're Joe Biden and you got this big speech coming up, you gotta know that all the pressure's on to have a good performance there, because if you goof up, a lot of people a lot of eyeballs will be there on the State of the Union, and the folk, you want to have the support of the people on the left, and it's starting to erode. I remember, when LBJ was president and Walter Cronkite came out against the Vietnam War. He said at the time, well, if I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the American people. I think the same could be said about Democrats. If you've lost Saturday Night Live, then you've lost Democrats. And Saturday Night Live was pretty brutal this weekend with Joe Biden, sort of playing off this idea that everybody says Joe Biden's as sharp as a tack. But we know that's not true.
But a New York Times poll today has him down 5 points, and many voters still have concerns about his age. Here with me is Governor of California and Biden advocate Gavin Newsom.
Great to be with you, Dana. I understand people care about the president's age, but what they should care about is his record. Look at what Joe Biden has done for America. He's created more jobs than any president in history. Inflation is down. The Shamrock Shake is back. And Beyonce has gone country. Thank you, Joe. I was just with him, and behind closed doors, Joe is incredible. Yesterday, we had a big meeting about the border, and God, he had such command. He had charts, tables, PowerPoints. He had an interactive AR display on the Apple Vision Pro that he programmed himself. The software might be in beta, but the man, he's an alpha.
Governor, I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical. This is the same man people call Sleepy Joe.
Well, he has to sleep, Dana. But even when he's sleeping, he's on.
Let's go live to Washington with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
Hello, Dana. Pleasure to be with you to talk about the most vigorous man I've ever known, Joe Biden.
Really?
Absolutely. I was just with him. And behind closed doors, he's a whirlwind. I mean, Dana, look at his schedule. 7 a.m. Soul Cycle class. And I'm not talking about taking one. He leads it. 8:30 a.m. Plays speed chess in the park. 8:32 a.m. Wins chess game, points at opponent and says, "Next time, young blood." 9:30 a.m. Meets with Joint Chiefs for a military strategy meeting and push-up contest. 10:02 a.m. Wins contest, points at the head of the Joint Chiefs and says, "Next time, young blood." 10:03 to 11, train time. And that's all before a lunch where he eats 5 whole chickens and a raw potato. Ask anyone who works with him closely.
Well, let's do that. We are now joined live by Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas.
Thanks for having me, Dana. Man, I am exhausted. I was with Joe Biden for the past weekend, and phew, he wiped me out.
Okay, so you feel he's up to the job?
Dana, I was just with him, and behind closed doors, he's a dynamo. This weekend, we both went down to the border town of Brownsville, Texas, and Joe went into beast mode. He said, "We gotta tighten this border. Look how easy I can cross it." Then he parkoured up to the top of the border wall. He front flipped into the Rio Grande and came back up with a fish in his mouth. But you didn't report that because it doesn't fit your little narrative.
Well, I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. You know, you have as sometimes the folks on Saturday Night Live do. Some of it funny, some of it not. But the bottom line is they are mocking the sitting president of the United States, which mean and you know that they actually at Saturday Night Live, we know what their proclivity is. They're very left, and they always have been. But now they're openly mocking the sitting president of the United States. By the way, I don't know what's up with Dr. Phil. I like Dr. Phil. I've always liked Dr. Phil. But he's got a book out right now, which it's a tremendous amount of common sense from everything I've read about it. I actually think I'm going to read this book. And he says that President Biden should take a cognitive exam because people that have nothing to hide nothing. Dr. Phil, do you think President Biden should take a cognitive exam? Said Bill Mayer, asking him in the overtime portion of his show. People that have nothing to hide hide nothing, so why not? And he goes on and trying to talk about, how, this was missing and really we should require it. But, I mean, there's so much stuff that Dr. Phil has been saying lately. He doesn't like what's happening at the border. He believes that what we did during COVID was a huge mistake. And I sort of wonder, is this your no labels candidate right here? I don't know. Somebody who has name ID. Is this somebody who's preparing himself for a run? I don't know. Would you vote for Dr. Phil? It is interesting. And his positions seem to be common sense. So I don't know. It's interesting that he's being so political when, most of the time he would avoid trying to be political when he had, when he was doing his show every day. Is he still doing his show every day? I don't know.
I don't think so. No,
I don't think so either. But he certainly has got this book out and certainly has something he's trying to do. I don't know what it is, though. Can't decide. Maybe he just wants to get some stuff off his chest. We'll see. 31 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Imagine what you could do and how you would feel if you or someone close to you had no pain. Well, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley can help you find that pain-free life. Because getting better and feeling healthier are important to Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley. They're freezing costs at 2023 levels. They've brought back their half-off spinal decompression treatment, half off the KT knee machine, and new patients can get full consultation starting at only $23. What a bargain. You got that on you. I know you do. So when you see Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, here's what will happen. If you go to the non-surgical spinal decompression, they'll take a moment to review all of the findings they have and suggest a course of action. If you have x-rays or MRIs, they'll go over them, and they have a great reputation for making sure that they get things, sort of right, and that they find things that other people have missed. So holding at 23 pricing, just $23 for new patients. You get an exam, consultation, x-rays, and, again, an examination. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are experts, as Dr. Mitchell has studied and practiced all over the world. Dr. Ashley has chiropractic experience, but also achieved clinical excellence in holistic healing, ranging from nutrition, cold laser, stress reduction, and more. So call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your consultation, 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So call them today. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to the special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.
It's 39 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. This is the last segment before we hand things over to the news, and then Mark Levin carries on, starting at 7:05 or so. And we love it when Mark Levin is in the building. He's here. He's here. I love that. I get excited when he's here. And then sometimes he's not there, but they still say, he's here.
It wouldn't sound right if they said, he's not here.
He's not here. So, and if people would go click. No, that wouldn't work. Anyway, love Mark Levin, the great one. He has that name because he is really the great one. So I got a bunch of stuff I want to try to plow through here in our last segment with the border situation. from the dailyfetched.com. Former U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz said during an interview on 60 Minutes with Cecilia Vega that he never spoke once to President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris about the border crisis during his tenure. He served as border chief from August of 21 through May of 23. And during that entire time, when Kamala Harris was the border czar and President Biden was the president of the United States, not one time did he talk to the border chief. He was also deputy chief under President Trump. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Ortiz has since retired after 3 years with the agency. During the explosive interview, a visibly frustrated Ortiz revealed what is really happening in the border under Biden. See, when we talked about how you lost SNL, and when you've lost 60 Minutes, I mean, my gosh, this is, well, I tell you what this is. This is the mainstream media agitating for a change at the top. Now, look, I don't want to change. I know I talk all the time about how I don't think Biden will be the nominee of the Democrats when all is said and done. But I mean, it's not my desire. It's just my expectation that they're not going to stand by and allow Biden to lose this one. They're going to try to do something to fix that. So, I just think that when you start to lose SNL, when you start to lose 60 Minutes, well, this is them agitating for a change. But I don't know who they bring on that can make the thing better for them. I don't see anybody out there. I don't know, one way or the other. He said, when agencies are making decisions based on politics or whether they're going to need media coverage, hey, we're going to put all our personnel in this 2-mile stretch. What about the other 200 miles? He then expressed frustration with Biden's handling of border security and the lack of direct communication with top White House officials. I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter, and so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem. I'd say you're right. I'd say you're right. 14,000 illegal immigrants crossed the U.S. southern border in just 1 week. A whopping 14,000 illegal immigrants were encountered at the southern border in Arizona 1 week alone, sources from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection said. More than 2,000 apprehensions of illegal immigrants were made in the Tucson sector. While illegal border crossings typically dip around the beginning of the year, the trend under Joe Biden shows the numbers are not letting up. See, they're moving away from Eagle Pass. They're moving away from Texas because Texas has gotten tough. And Texas is causing the coyotes a lot of trouble. And so now they've just decided, well, let's go where we don't have to deal with Texas. So if no action is taken, buckle up for the rest of the year, says Fox News' Bill Maloogian, especially if migrants feel the need to get in before Biden is potentially voted out of office. I've been waiting for that to happen. As the word, trickles down that he's not doing well and may not win, you watch for the surge of all surge. The mother of all surges will occur, I predict, in July, August, September, November, October, November, before the election. They're going to come like crazy. It'll be unbelievable. People trying to get in under the wire. And as you've heard from many people, the border crisis is now the primary issue. The Texas border will be the place where a bunch of Tennesseans are going. I should have said that different. Tennessee is sending a bunch of people to Texas. As America faces the most severe border crisis in decades, writes the Epoch Times, Tennessee is showing the rest of the country what it means to lead. Governor Bill Lee is the latest Republican governor to deploy a contingent of his state's National Guard troops to the U.S. southern border to help block illegal border crossings. During a visit to the Texas border town of Eagle Pass last month, Governor Lee announced his intent to authorize 2 new rounds of troop deployments. On Saturday, he made good on that vow, meeting with a group of 50 Tennessee National Guard soldiers who will take on the border mission. He asked for, have you heard this story? He asked for 100 volunteers, 50 in one wave. They'll come back, be replaced by another 50. He asked for 100 volunteers. he got 400 volunteers. And what does that tell you? Everything you need to know about the people of Tennessee, the volunteer state. We need a volunteer, and 400 people raised their hand, and he only needed 100. 4 times the number he needed. So that's great. This most recently, 125 members of the Tennessee National Guard, 1175 Transportation Company. I don't know how you say that. 1175th Transportation Company were deployed in a year-long mission, which they assisted the U.S. Customs and Border Protection by operating mobile surveillance sites and monitoring surveillance cameras to detect illegal border crossings that the Border Patrol was not going to do anything about. Love to have a conversation with some of those people about what they saw. Anyway, getting national attention, and he met with some of these folks over the weekend and told him how much it was important that they go and do this work. I believe that we're doing the right thing by supporting the state of Texas. Costs us a little money, I know, but we have an obligation to support Texas because the federal government is not doing its job down there, and Texas is having an impact. They are having an impact because, the people are not coming into Texas as much as they once were. They're going elsewhere. So there you go. Texas is having some effect on the whole thing. This story from justthenews.com, and we've talked about this before. After canceling student loan debt, the Biden administration announces that it's paying college students to register voters. Now, we all know that when he paid off, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people's, student debt that they took and were supposed to pay back, but they're not going to pay it back, and their debt is forgiven at taxpayer expense, by the way. Boy, that hacks me off. That was a blatant attempt for Biden to sort of shore up his support among young people who've been complaining that they shouldn't have to pay back the loan they took out. The loan. Do I need to give you the definition of a loan? You borrow money in the form of a loan and you pay it back with interest. But no, they didn't want to do that, and so the Biden administration, even though the Supreme Court said you shouldn't, They found ways around it, and they went ahead and did it. And so what's the Supreme Court going to do? Supreme Court's supposed to be the final say in the land. But they say they just kept going on doing what they wanted to do. Now they have students registering voters. I guarantee you that none of the people that they picked to register voters come from the Young Republicans Club on any college campus in America. I can, if you can find one, I'll be really shocked, stunned, and amazed. But I don't think you're going to find one. And Kamala Harris is very proud of this fact. And she even talked about some of the people she met who turned out to be leftist college radicals who are out there doing this work. You know where they're going to go. They're going to go to find Democrat voters. They're going to register Democrat voters. They're not going to register any voter who comes along. They're going to seek out those voters that they know will vote Democrat in the coming election. We need to raise hell about this, and nobody is. This is wrong. That we should not be spending tax dollars to forgive their loans. We should not be spending tax dollars to have them go out and register Democrats, because you know they're going to be selective about where they go. You know it. Let's see. With the time I have left, I want to throw in this story. Ford sales did jump 10.5% in February, led by gains in the sale of hybrids and EVs. Now, we've been telling you that EVs were not selling, but then, Ford cut dramatically the cost of the EVs. And I think the Ford is still a car that gets you the discount, right? So one way or the other, because they slashed those people who've been thinking about electric cars, they bought them. But it's really about the hybrid sales. Ford builds a great little hybrid truck, and Ford has decided that hybrid is the way to go. And so they're selling these little hybrid trucks like crazy. Hybrid sales totaled 12,045 in February, including 6,463 units of its small Maverick hybrid truck. Now, I think for some people, a hybrid truck would be a great little thing if you don't have to make long trips. But with a hybrid, you're not going to get stranded because you've got a little gasoline in the tank that will run a generator that will power the electric motors, and you keep right on going. Hybrids make sense, and you get great gas mileage. But, I mean, the EVs, if total electric, I don't think that that's the answer. I'm beginning to believe that hybrids are the way to go. 51 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. So here are some facts about engagement rings that you need to know. There are 10 premier bridal designers every woman knows about. They're like the Mercedes or the Louis Vuitton of engagement rings, world-class iconic quality names like Tacori or Verragio. These designers are very hard to get, and every jewelry store wants them, but very few are allowed because they just don't make the cut. So they have to settle for lesser brands or knockoffs. Around here, there's only one jewelry store that offers these premium rings, and it's Genesis Diamonds. Genesis is the only one that made the cut that meets the highest standards. Genesis is the only store that allowed to offer these exceptional brands that women truly want and know about. Other stores are jealous and will try to convince you these are more expensive and try to get you to settle for something less. But the truth is, Genesis has top quality designer rings for under $2,000. So it's not about price, it's about craftsmanship and quality, detail and individualities. Don't compromise, don't settle. Get her a world-class ring she'll be proud to wear. Genesis Diamond, Green Hills and Cool Springs, also home to the state's largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis here. Got my first shipment of emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Gonna make these pancakes. Now you prepare and cook them just like regular pancakes. But thanks to this special packaging, they last for 25 years. So when things go wrong, you are eating right with My Patriot Supply. And yes, they taste great. Now every week, I'm going to introduce you to different food. My Patriot Supply is America's most trusted supplier of emergency food. Head on over to my website, preparewithmandis.com, right now and see all the different foods that they have and all the great specials as well. That's preparewithmandis.com. Be prepared for anything with My Patriot Supply and preparewithmandis.com.